Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1435 of the War News stream. And tonight we have more big news. We've seen that Russia's lost several critical fighter jets today in major crashes. We've also seen that China is now escalating its massive military purge, and also Iran is now panicking today, releasing tons of propaganda videos as U.S. forces prepare strikes and Iran refuses all U.S. demands, and the table is set for something major to happen very soon. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world as significant developments have emerged from the Middle East, Eastern Europe, East Asia, and also the Eastern Caribbean over the course of the day. We have heard that the Islamic Republic of Iran has been approached by U.S. negotiators and diplomatic teams for possible discussions on terms to de-escalate the situation inside of the Middle East and to see that the Islamic Republic of Iran is not imminently attacked by the United States of America. The Islamic Republic of Iran has completely refused to conduct any diplomatic negotiations with the United States of America, and when presented with a preliminary list of terms, the Iranians have outright rejected any lists that have been provided so far, stating that any points are not open for negotiation. This now means that the United States of America is forced into conducting imminent strikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran, while at the same time, the Islamic Republic of Iran is still continuing to conduct military preparations inside their country for an eventual defense against U.S. strikes and an attempted counterattack against the United States, its allies in the Middle East, and also the State of Israel. We have also been able to see that the Iranian Air Force, as a result, has continued to fly a large amount of reconnaissance drones into the area of the Gulf of Oman in the northern Arabian Sea to try and conduct some form of surveillance on the U.S. carrier strike group that is currently somewhere within that area. We have also seen that more strategic airlifts are being conducted by the United States of America to critical facilities and bases throughout the Middle East to further build up U.S. defensive assets and also offensive capabilities against the Iranians, as a multi-week or multi-month-long air campaign is now being considered against the Islamic Islamic Republic of Iran, with high priorities being air defense sites, military institutions such as the Air Force, and also high priority targets within the central Iranian government. At the same time, the Iranians have also been putting out an unbelievably large amount of propaganda. It appears that someone finally found out how to AI generate propaganda inside of Iran, and they have been putting out the treasure trove of the stuff. We've also seen that inside of the rest of the Middle East, the USS Delbert D. Black, an early bird-class guided missile destroyer, has arrived on scene within the eastern Mediterranean, now under CENTCOM's area of responsibility. Meanwhile, we've also heard that inside of Syria, fighting is still ongoing between the SDF and Jelani's regime, as Jelani has now released another several hundred ISIS prisoners out of another prison, once again to be released back into the Syrian interim government's area of control to do whatever they please, generally continuing their reign of terror. Outside of that, the Pakistani armed forces have also been seen conducting unusual movements and deployments within the area of Balochistan in southwestern Pakistan. It is believed that at this moment, there may be a rise or an increased risk of insurgent actions from Balochistani independence forces within the Kandahar province of Afghanistan, and that these may spill over into Pakistan and rekindle the Taliban-Pakistan war, which was seen several months prior. Outside of that, the People's Republic of China is continuing to deal with extremely high amounts of paranoia. Over the past 3 years, a large amount of Chinese People's Liberation Army leadership has been removed from their positions, either stripped of rank or also brought up on charges and then also imprisoned as a result. It appears that as of today, that paranoia is still gripping the country after the arrest of Zhang Yuzhou and other high members of the Central Military Commission. Inside the Eastern Caribbean, we've also been able to hear that an unusual circumstance occurred along the Venezuelan-Colombian border, as a private jet carrying around 12 passengers, including 2 Colombian diplomats, actually crashed, with all members of the flight being killed along the Colombian-Venezuelan border. At the same time, the United States of America has now announced that they will be handing back one of the seized tankers to the Republic of Venezuela, while at the same time also announcing that all of the Russian sailors that were arrested on board the Marinera, which was stopped just north of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, just to the west of the Faroe Islands, will now be released and returned back to the Russian Federation. We have also heard additional news and statements out of Washington on a wide myriad of developments around the entirety of the world, and at the same time, the Ukrainian armed forces have seen that a significant amount of actions have developed in their favor over the course of the day, as in the Kursk Oblast, an Su-34 fighter bomber appears to have suffered some form of a pilot-caused crash, leading to the death of both the pilot and the bombardier on board the Su-34, while rumors have now started to circle of a crash of a Russian Su-30SM just south of Sevastopol within the area of the Black Sea. Ukrainian armed forces have inflicted significant casualties onto the Russian Federation's armed forces today and have generally stopped any, if not all, frontline movements by the Russian army. We have also seen that there have been some significant strikes within the area of Voronezh on an oil storage depot by Ukrainian long-range strike drones, and the Volkswagen factory, or the former Volkswagen factory at Kaluga, has apparently caught on fire and practically burned to the ground, with apparently no attempt at firefighting efforts being made in the midst of the blaze, which leads us to believe that the Russian Federation may have deliberately set the fire. Inside of Moscow, we've also been able to hear that IMMINENT al-Shara, who is al-Jelani, the terrorist who is currently in charge of the Syrian interim government, is currently visiting Vladimir Putin at this moment inside of Moscow, apparently to formalize relations between the Syrian interim government and the Russian Federation. We've also been able to hear that the Chinese appear to be providing significant material and industrial support to the Russian Federation in their war efforts so far, and the Russian Federation has now announced that in the midst of their dire economic straits and the fact that the Russian army is generally without arms or equipment at this point, especially compared to their opening of the war back in 2022, the Russian Federation has still announced that they will be pumping 1.6 billion US dollars into their propaganda budget this year for the Russian FSB. There is a lot of news that we have to cover from around the entirety of the world, and we are of course going to be making sure to get through that news, starting with our largest stories first and then moving our way on down into the smaller stories throughout the night. And of course, as tradition dictates, we will be moving on into the largest story of the day, which will be moving us into the Middle East. We have been able to hear that the United States of America has apparently attempted to approach the Islamic Republic of Iran with a list of terms and conditions that the Iranians would have to meet to avoid a U.S. strike on the Islamic Republic of Iran. We've actually been able to hear a little bit of detail about these terms that were given to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we have also been able to hear that the behind-the-scenes talks between Iran and the United States reached a complete deadlock, with Tehran rejecting every single form of a deal. The New York Times reported that while Washington is demanding a permanent end to uranium enrichment, limits on ballistic missiles and ballistic missile technology, and an end to support for proxy groups such as Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. The Iranian foreign minister dismissed the demands and warned against military threats. The U.S. intelligence forces say that Iran's nuclear capabilities were heavily damaged in a recent strike, but still could pose a risk if if the Islamic Republic of Iran is able to access some form of hidden weapons-grade enriched uranium inside of their country. We also were able to get a little bit more detail on the terms that were given to the Islamic Republic of Iran and the rejection of the deal, as we were able to hear that once again, the key terms that the U.S. were looking for was a complete ban on the enrichment of uranium of any form, either for energy-grade or weapons-grade refined uranium, a limit on long-range ballistic missiles, meaning that they will not be able to further develop and produce intercontinental and intermediate-range ballistic missiles, and an end to support for proxy groups across the Middle East. Once again, the Islamic Republic of Iran rejected all three of these terms, not even willing to discuss a single one of them. So, I want to once again point out here that this is a completely different perspective than what was seen prior by the United States government, at least in official statements, and it is lining up exactly with our analysis that we've been making here on the channel as to why the Islamic Republic of Iran poses a threat. The Islamic Republic of Iran poses a threat because of the three following items: their production or continued technological development of some form of a nuclear weapon, their continued development of long-range missile programs, including those of intercontinental ballistic missiles, capable of reaching the United States with a nuclear-armed warhead on board, and their continued support for destabilizing forces throughout the Middle East, which threaten the U.S. security assurance sphere, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iraq, Hamas inside the Gaza Strip, and the Yemeni Houthis within western Yemen. These three main points pose a critical strategic concern to the United States of America, with the Islamic Republic of Iran being the main proponent and threat to the United States within the Middle East. For that reason, it appears that the United States is not going to be working off of a humanitarian framework in our actual reason to start this war. It actually appears that we're going to be revisiting the same key threats that we have spoken on about this on this channel for years now, which is the fact that the Iranians are producing intercontinental ballistic missiles and eventually a nuclear weapon that will be capable of reaching the United States of America and attempting to pose an imminent threat to U.S. allies inside the Middle East, which allow for us to control the world's flow of freely produced oil that is not produced directly by the United States or the Russian Federation. This is a fairly interesting sort of a change, and I once again want to remind you all that up until today, the United States of America's government's statements from the U.S. Department of State and from the President of the United States has been that we are going to strike the Iranians over the atrocities that were conducted, the crimes against humanity, against the Iranian people over the past several weeks. It actually appears that, much like the Venezuelan situation, that was merely a cover for the actual reality of why we would be wanting to conduct strikes on Iran, in the fact that they pose an imminent nuclear threat to the United States within the region, our allies within the area, and not only that, they are a significant destabilizing force within the Middle East. So it does appear that our analysis was dead on correct as to why the United States of America would consider it to be a primary cause and a strategic security interest at that to be able to conduct armed strikes on Iran. We have also been able to hear that at the same time, the Iranians may have received a limited batch of Mi-28 Havocs over the course of the day. These pictures emerged, which seem to be showing us some sort of an arrival of Mi-28s that appear to be incomplete. As you can see, it appears that their external pylons for weapons and armaments have not been equipped yet, and the 2A42 autocannon also appears to be covered in some sort of a tarp cover below. We believe that these were actually shipped by a vessel through the Caspian Sea to a northern Iranian port, and then were unloaded and transported to this military facility that we have not been able to identify yet where these pictures were taken. Still, it is...
That's got to be new, though, because Iran's helicopter fleet is really pitiful. Like, they have that, I think they call it the Shahed helicopter. They call everything a Shahed that Iran makes for military equipment, but they have that really janky-looking, like, plywood-made helicopter. I'm not really sure what the thing is, but it looks real janky. So this thing looks way more advanced, and that's not saying much, than what Iran previously had. So this has to be something that they probably got from Russia, or maybe bought it on the used market or something like that, because I haven't seen these before.
These were actually purchased most likely directly from the Russian Federation, as these are some of Russia's most advanced attack helicopters that they currently operate anywhere in the world, right next to the Kamarov Ka-52, which is basically their other equivalent of an advanced helicopter. The Mi-28 has seen very limited use by the Russian army inside of Ukraine due to the significant amount of losses of Mi-28s of all varieties that have been sustained by the Russian rotary aviation forces during that war. However, the Russian Federation appears to be trying to fulfill contracts that they had already made with Iran, because Iran had announced in 2023 that they had signed and agreed on a contract with the Russian Federation, and specifically the company that produces the Mi-28, which is, as a matter of fact, I want to make sure that I get the name of the company correct. Let's see. Dang, I cannot think of the name. Let's see. Mill. That's literally, I should have known that. I should have known. But anyways, it's Mill. There's the same company that created the Mi-24 or the Hind. But nevertheless, they announced in 2023 that they had a contract standing with the Russian Federation for Mi-28s, and it appears that they were most likely able to get them. And these pictures are very early, at least in terms of how long they've had them. It appears that they just got them probably over the past few days, because there's a couple of important additions to the Mi-28 that are not on this helicopter. For one, the rotor blades have not been installed on this helicopter. Additionally, the thermal exhaust vents on the side of the helicopter, which you can see right here, have also not been installed, and the external pylons for mounting weaponry. Let me see if I can get you all another angle of a picture here. Here's the external pylons here, have also not been equipped either. This is leading us to believe that this helicopter was taken a picture of literally as it arrived at this army airfield somewhere inside of Iran, and also the camouflage pattern on this Mi-28 seems to suggest to us that it is some sort of a specialized camouflage pattern applied to the Mill factory in the Russian Federation for the Islamic Republic of Iran's army, as this camouflage is commonly seen on a large amount of Mi-17s and other helicopters that the Iranians already operate. So it does seem that literally at the 13th hour, the Iranians have been able to get some new helicopters, but I'll be entirely frank with you all, they're not really going to do them any good.
Isn't it a little bit weird, though? Like you're saying, the 13th hour. The timing is, of course, very odd, because the Russians need everything they can get to fight the war against Ukraine. They're losing stuff left and right. I mean, today they've just lost at least 2 of their fighter jets. They're losing equipment all over the place, and they're crashing it. It's being shot down. So for Russia to suddenly come up with a few spares, this is clearly an attempt to try to arm Iran before this conflict breaks out between the United States and the Iranian government. They're trying to prepare them the best they can. And also, this is no small feat for Russia to give up some equipment like this, even if it is secondhand or not the best equipment out there. This is still a bit of a feat for them to give it. So that I guess Russia is showing up in one way. They're showing up by giving equipment, but I still don't believe that Russia is going to show up to defend Iran on the ground. I really highly doubt that.
I would doubt that as well. And also, really quickly, just to show y'all something, so that way I can kind of get y'all a little bit of backup for this. This camouflage pattern does appear to be from the Iranian army, at least applied at the factory, because if you look at this one right here, this is actually, I believe, an AH-1F Cobra that has been in operation with the Iranians for about 50 years at this point, so basically an eternity in a military sense. But you can see a very similar camouflage pattern applied to this Cobra, a lot like the Mi-28 that we're seeing in this picture here. I would say that it is a little bit interesting, like you're saying, that the Russians always seem to be able to throw just a small amount of help in everyone's direction, like Venezuela's, Iran's, and everyone else's direction, whenever it looks like they're about to face the wrath of the U.S. military. So it looks like the Russians tried to give them a little bit of help here at the 13th hour, right before the strikes commence. But the reality of it is, folks, is that these helicopters are not really going to help out the Iranians in any meaningful way at all. Like,
no, it's not. It's symbolic, really. I mean, I was just about to say that when you got done with your point there. I was about to say it's symbolic, because Iran is not going to win a war with just a couple of Mi helicopters. Not going to happen at all, because their air defense is going to get taken out in the first salvo that the U.S. launches at Iran. Their air defense is going to get taken out, and then our fighter jets are going to go in, and these things are going to be sitting ducks. Like, they're going to be in some deep trouble. So it's something so that way Russia can make it look like they didn't abandon their ally. That's basically what this is doing. It's face saving, because this is not going to save Iran by any means.
This is not. In a tactical situation, folks, in an actual battlefield, really more so in the larger battle that we'll see between the United States and Iran, attack helicopters are going to have no purpose at all, at least in that battle. The U.S. Air Force is going to be operating either directly over Iran or from hundreds of miles away over the Arabian Peninsula or over the Arabian Sea. meaning that this helicopter has no real purpose in actually helping out the Iranians if they get attacked. It's basically a thoughts and prayers sort of a gift from the Russians in saying, you're about to get violated by the U.S. military. Here's some helicopters to make y'all feel better while that happens. This isn't going to do a lot for them. The only way that this might do something for the Iranians and help them out a small bit is if the U.S. military actually landed on the ground. But even still, the U.S. military doesn't just land on the ground and leave our soldiers to die like the Russians did their own guys at Hostomel. They would have a significant amount of air support, and they would also most likely be equipped with man-pads, which are the #1 enemy of a helicopter like this. So it's completely a waste. There's really no way that they're going to be able to make this thing usable. And not only that, from what I can tell, looking at the rotor assembly up top, it does not appear to be a modern Mi-28N, which is incredibly important because the earlier versions of the Mi-28, which I would assume that this is most likely an Mi-28A, which is one of the earlier variants, or at least the cheaper variant, they do not have a over-the-rotor radar, or basically an air-to-ground radar on them. That means that they would have to be able to have, well, they would have to have a direct line of sight to their target to be able to fire anything at them, meaning that if it's firing at U.S. forces in any sort of an engagement, it's directly open to ground fire or anti-aircraft fire, and it will be shot down pretty quickly. Russian Ka-52s proved that endlessly in Ukraine, because every single time a helicopter would pop up above a tree line, it would get slammed by a man-pad basically immediately. So these helicopters...
Is it fair to say these things have basically been supplied as appetizers for the United States forces? They're going to come in, and this is going to look like a snack. This thing right here, this thing is going to be consumed very quickly, like a jalapeno popper flying in the sky. This thing's going to be in trouble. It's basically what Russia's done is they've basically thrown some helicopters basically down the toilet because it's not going to help. It's symbolic, and they just expended some helicopters they could have definitely used in the war in Ukraine. So maybe it'll pay off, maybe it'll save them some face, but it's certainly not going to help on a strategic front.
Nah, man, this thing isn't going to be a flying jalapeno popper. You know what this thing is really going to be? It's going to be a satellite picture of some ash somewhere on a tarmac after it gets hit by a Hellfire or a JDAM or something else. It's not even going to make it off of the ground. No Iranian helicopter ever made it off of the ground during the 12-Day War, and back over in Mashhad, if y'all remember, right around here, where all these little AH-1Ss are of the Iranian army, the Israelis just flew over here and were literally picking them off while they were sitting on the ground. They did that everywhere. The Mi-28 will end up in the very same situation. There's no way that it can defend itself in that sort of a scenario. But we have also been able to hear that apparently the Iranians did issue another threat today, and I want to make sure to read this one to y'all. This is Ali Shamkhani. I gotta say, the sham in the name is really starting to fit here, but he has stated, "For us, there is no such thing as a limited attack. Even the smallest attack will cause us to launch a comprehensive war on the entire region, especially Tel Aviv." They got something against that city, I tell you. I don't know what it is, but they absolutely hate Tel Aviv. But it does appear that the senior advisor to Khamenei is making it pretty clear that their current stance is that any attempted attack on Iran by the United States will then result in them attacking countries that had nothing to do with the attack, like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Qatar, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, let's see, maybe even Syria, just basically anyone and everyone in the region.
Well, what did they say about the dog that yaps the loudest? The dog that yaps the loudest is usually the one that's all bark and no bite. That's pretty much what Iran is at this point. Iran, I mean, we'll get to it eventually here in a second in the news, but they are releasing propaganda video after propaganda video, like back to back, like at a rate I've never seen Iran release them before. They're issuing crazy statements over and over and over. You don't go through all this if you actually are prepared to defend your country. You do this if you're caught lacking. You're trying to be the dog that's barking and scaring everybody off. It's not going to work though, because the U.S. has good intelligence and we know exactly what their capabilities are. So it's pointless. Like, this isn't going to hold anybody back. In fact, this might actually embolden the president, who's very ego-driven, to actually go through with striking Iran, because now he feels like he's being attacked with his ego.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Also, I see some people getting absolutely enraged in the chat over my joke about they have something against Tel Aviv. If y'all couldn't detect the sarcasm, the whole reason I was saying, they got something against that city is because they hate Israel and they also hate anyone who's Jewish, and Tel Aviv is basically the main city of Israel. That's why the joke was made. It's sarcasm. But anyways, moving on from that, we have also been able to hear that apparently the Iranians did announce a public execution of a political prisoner today, but tried to kind of gloss it over a little bit by alleging that they were a Mossad agent. So not really making it that big of a deal, at least according to the Iranians. But we all know that that's basically covering for the execution of a political prisoner, because a Mossad agent, at least at this point, is what a lot of the Iranian government has been calling the protesters in the streets, either agents of the United States or agents of the Mossad or enemies of God, meaning that they did publicly announce the execution of another political prisoner today, but just tried to gloss it over a little bit by calling them a Mossad agent instead. But once again, showing that they are returning to public executions of political dissidents at this point, while they're also unofficially executing hundreds of them per day, as the body bags are still flooding into Tehran for disposal at some sort of a location outside of the city. But at the moment, a lot of people aren't talking about the Iranian statements that came out today, as we have heard that apparently the Islamic Republic of Iran is denying any attempted negotiations and also completely shooting down any attempted terms by the United States of America. And a lot of people are really wondering whether that's true or not. Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
Okay, so the reports are saying that U.S. officials are currently engaged in negotiations behind closed doors with Iranian officials, despite Iran saying that there's been no such talks, even at all. So somebody's lying, and I wonder who that is. 38% said Iran is negotiating, and Iran's lying about it, while 29% said negotiations are probably already over, and 24% said the USA is lying about negotiations. And I am very confident in the fact that Iran is 100% negotiating behind closed doors. They are probably begging for the survival of their regime as we speak, literally right this hour. That's probably what they're doing. And they're not going to tell the public about that because they've been telling the Iranian people that the USA is the devil, and it would look really bad if they publicly announced that they were negotiating with the devil. So they're not going to say that in the public, but they will, of course, behind closed doors, beg the United States to please give them a chance, to please not go after the Iranian country, so that way they can keep trying to develop a nuke in the background while we sit around waiting for time. So I'm with the 39%. Iran is certainly negotiating, and they're probably, honestly, it's probably a hideous sight behind closed doors, I'd imagine. But, Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I would actually believe that they are not negotiating at all, because we know that in the last war, the 12-day war in Operation Midnight Hammer, they completely refused any attempt at negotiations by the United States of America back then. And so I would believe that they're doing the very same thing today, because if anyone remembers from last year, back in 2025, in the middle of the summer when the 12-day war was going on, the Islamic Republic of Iran was openly and publicly refusing any attempted negotiations by the United States on either limiting the amount of uranium that they're able to enrich, stopping their missile programs and their development programs as well for those missiles, and also stopping their funding of any terrorist groups that they support inside the Middle East. They refused all three of those terms back then. And then they were bombed directly as a result. And even after they were bombed, we still have seen that they have not stopped their attempts at nuclear weapons development. They have not stopped their attempts at missile development. And they've also not stopped funding their forces inside of Lebanon, Gaza Strip, and also Western Yemen. So I would believe that they are once again completely rejecting any negotiations at all by the United States of America, because they view any of those points to be absolutely unacceptable. For one, they view the nuclear enrichment restrictions as completely unacceptable because they are not going to allow the enemy, the infidel as they call us, the United States of America, to tell them that they can't produce a weapon to kill the infidel with. So they're going to completely refuse that one outright every time. They're also going to completely refuse the ICBM development limitations because the ICBM is intended to kill the infidels, which are us in the United States. So they're not going to listen to the infidels telling them you can't create a missile that can reach the infidels and kill us, because they want to kill the infidels, because their entire government is driven by this extremist ideology. And then finally, they're also not going to listen to the infidels demanding of them that we have to limit, they have to limit or completely stop their funding of their terrorist forces in the Middle East, because once again, those terrorist forces are meant to completely whittle down and destroy the infidel, which is primarily the United States of America, and Israel is basically, to the Iranians, kind of like our lapdog, or really vice versa. It depends on which way you go. So they are not going to be willing to accept any stops of funding to their own terrorist groups, because All three of these points go completely against their end goal, which is either breaking down the United States or breaking down Israel or our allies in the Middle East. So they find these points to be non-negotiable, and we do understand that they are driven purely by ideological zeal. There is no logic behind this, because a country that is logical wouldn't have an extreme radical religious theocracy running their country. So they do not run off of any sort of a logical framework like, say, the United States of America's government generally would, or most democratic governments would around the world, where it's more so...
Are you sure? Are you sure, though? Because remember that Iran was actually open to some of the provisions in the JCPOA that was negotiated back when Obama was president. They were actually somewhat open to that. And previously, the United States was looking to entertain perhaps a return to the JCPOA. So it was open for debate then. Now, what Iran likes to do, in my personal opinion, is they like to be sneaky. They would like to agree to something that appears acceptable or like a compromise on the surface, but then after they agreed to it, just like they did with the JCPOA, which was an Iran nuclear deal, basically, they went behind our back and they started actually enriching nuclear fuel again and also uranium. And they started doing that anyway, even with the agreement in place. So, I mean, it wouldn't be too far-fetched for them to deceive us, because that's what their whole business is deception of the West. They say one thing while they still work against us behind the scenes. So they could try to buy time doing that. If I was in the Iranian position, that's what I would be doing. I would be currently trying to come up with a acceptable deal for the U.S. to halt the strikes, and in the background do the complete opposite and deceive the United States. I think that's what Iran's probably doing behind the scenes.
That would make sense if we allowed any form of uranium enrichment, but in the current terms that we're hearing publicly, we're saying that they have to stop all uranium enrichment. So there's no way to deceive us, because under the JCPOA made during the Obama administration, there wasn't a complete end or stoppage on uranium enrichment. It was just that there was a specific cap that they could not exceed, which I believe was somewhere around 70% enrichment, because 60% is needed for fuel-grade uranium for nuclear reactors, and 90% would be for nuclear-grade enriched uranium for weapons purposes. And the Iranians agreed to that because it allowed for them to keep running their enrichment plants and also continuing to produce highly grade weapons enriched uranium on the side, while also publicly deceiving everyone and saying we're only doing weapons grade enrichment here at these nuclear enrichment plants or uranium enrichment plants. Right now, under the current terms, we're saying they have to completely stop any enrichment whatsoever, meaning that they would have to buy nuclear fuel, like nuclear fuel rods, from another country like Russia or China or us or some other third-party country that is into nuclear development and uranium enrichment to be able to run their nuclear power plants, meaning that they wouldn't even have the ability to deceive anyone, because they would have to openly dismantle every single nuclear facility and openly show that, at least under the current agreement. So I think that's where...
There's still wiggle room, though, because remember, they have the civilian reactors. So there's some wiggle room there. I do believe that the United States would have some negotiating room on that, because Iran is probably going to come to the table and say, well, look, United States, we'll stop the weapons development of any type of weapons-grade uranium. We'll stop that, but we'll have to keep our civilian nuclear reactors running, and we'll, of course, need to supply those with uranium. So they'll basically go back to exactly what they agreed to before, and the U.S. might be inclined to at least think about that or consider it, because it would be a bit wild to go all the way and say, okay, they can't have even their like civilian nuclear reactors for power. That would go a little bit far, and I think the U.S. would have some wiggle room on it. So the objective of Iran is to hold off these strikes. That's their objective, because they know that they can't defend against the United States. They know that for a fact, despite what they're saying in the public. They know they're going to get the floor wiped. So they want to avoid that. But at the same time, though, they want to leave some room open so that way they can be sneaky in the background and continue enriching the fuel and also keep arming themselves for a future conflict with Israel.
Possibly, but I have a feeling that right now they're probably not going to accept any U.S. terms, because they didn't accept any U.S. terms last time and they got the floor wiped against them, and then that never stopped them from doing what they're still doing right now in terms of nuclear missile and terrorist support inside the region and inside of their own country. So, I mean, if bombing them last time, if that's the idea that we would wipe the floor against them, and so that would clearly make them negotiate, we wiped the floor against them last time and they still didn't negotiate afterwards or during that or before that, knowing that that was going to be an inevitable result of their poor decisions.
Yeah, what honestly, like, here's when I say all this stuff, I'm not saying to return back to the JCPOA. My point behind saying all this is now is not the time to negotiate with Iran. You can't make a deal with a government that operates like they do. They're willing to kill their own people to stay in power. That tells you everything you need to know about that regime. The time for talking is over. The United States promised to help the protesters. They've also said we got to stop them from developing a nuke. Now's the time to go in and actually get the job done. It's not time to start talking with Iran. That time's over. That you can't negotiate with somebody who's not going to hold their word. It's not going to happen. So just simply get the job done. The assets are in the region. Just get it done.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I don't really believe that negotiating with the Iranians is even something that should be in our toolbox at the moment. We should be telling them, these are our demands, you either accept them or we're going to bomb you. And also, even at that, less so than that, we already said that we were going to bomb them if they shot and killed any protesters. They've killed at least 30,000 of them, and they're still killing scores of them a day. So, just for that reason alone, because we made an official announcement about that, we should be following through on our word on that alone, with all of this now falling as secondary objectives to what we're currently pursuing right now, which is vengeance for the slain inside of Iran and the crimes against humanity conducted by the Iranian government. But moving on from that, we are going to be moving on into the rest of the news that we have gotten out of the surrounding area. We'll be coming back to Tehran here in a little bit because we do have a little bit more of interesting stuff that did come out on the ground today inside the city. But before we get to that, we do want to move down here to the coastline near the Bandar Abbas because we did get to see, folks, something a little special. Many of y'all know about that hyped up Bandar Abgari drone carrier ship that they have down there near Bandar Abbas, but a lot of people were wondering, where in the world is that drone carrier? What kind of threat does it pose to the U.S. Navy? I mean, that thing could really rain down some damage, some heat. Well, we know it's actually anchored right outside of the naval wharf at Bandar Abbas right there. There it is. You can actually see the angled flight deck right there in the ramp on the front due to the shadow that it's casting inside of the sea. So it actually appears that the Bandar Abbas port, or the Shahid Bagheri, is just sitting right outside of the naval wharf, not underway or moving or anything. So it's practically a sitting target at this moment, and doesn't really appear to be doing a lot of anything at all compared to what the Iranians were making it out to be yesterday, which was some sort of a super secret special forces like drone carrier that was able to penetrate U.S. defenses and deliver a deadly blow. But if this doesn't convince you that the Iranians pose a threat, allow me to bring y'all to the endless amount of propaganda that they published over the course of the day, while they've been shivering in their timbers simultaneously by conducting combat air patrols around the port, which we can hear in this clip right here.
And what is that? Fighter jets?
We believe it's like a MiG-29 or something like that that's conducting a combat air patrol.
Interesting.
But now it's time for us to move y'all on into the propaganda, which is what happens when a British person takes a good look at something. And as us as British descendants, being 90% British and all, we are going to take a good look at this stuff, so called propaganda, the way we've been looking at the stuff. We were able to find that they put out these interesting clips today. They made this AI video, folks, of the USS Abraham Lincoln, and I do have to say that at the beginning of this clip, there was a little bit of an attention to detail here, because they have the Abraham Lincoln and the 3 Arleigh Burkes that serve as its escorts. So they actually did a little bit of research, a minimal amount at the moment, on the carrier strike group. But then they showed this. You see them showing the carrier. Also, by the way, this is an AI-made generation that they have of some sort. And then you can see them showing the carrier deck.
Yes, it's definitely AI, that's for sure.
You can tell because the shading isn't rendered properly on the actual flight tower over there.
Also, what kind of even aircraft is that sitting there on the flight deck? See that one right there sitting on the little takeoff strip? What even is that?
It looks like it's some sort of an F-35, but it kind of looks more like a J-35, if I'm being completely honest. But then
what a joke.
But it gets even funnier. You see, they're showing this deck of the carrier, right? Here in a second, they're going to show all of the coffins. Oh, so scary. Oh my God. This is actually scary how bad this is. So then they show it again. Also, I've got to let y'all listen to the audio during this part right here, because they have some guy screaming on a radio, and he sounds like that one video of that scammer where he's like, "No, what are you doing?" Like, listen to it. I mean, it's really something.
What the?
I mean,
It's like, what the hell? It's that crazy stuff again.
Oh man, and then they got an Arleigh Burke cooking off in the distance. They didn't even get the number on the carrier right because the Abraham Lincoln is CVN 72. This says 74 on the side of the flight tower, so this isn't even the right one. But I
Yeah,
mean,
really.
goodness, folks, this is deep. I think they got the flags wrong. I think these are going to be Iranian flags on these. But anyways, we were also able to see some additional propaganda that they put out today, which was also one hell of a treat. They really loved the whole flag-draped coffins on the aircraft carrier whole routine because this is the second one of the day. And once again, AI generated because you can tell that the conning tower over there of the aircraft carrier appears to have too many floors, and also it's pretty thick. And also, I can't even tell y'all what these aircraft are supposed to be because they're not even real. But once again, they say a bad fate awaits the aggressor. Hashtag beautiful missiles. Hashtag beautiful floater.
Wait a second. Let's put this in perspective real quick, Enforcer. Go grab the post. I just put in the likes tab, by the way, on the Twitter page. Go grab that real quick. Let's put this in perspective, by the way. They're talking a lot about the USS Lincoln. Here you go. Here's a good comparison. We have the Mohammed Lincoln and we have the Abraham Lincoln. Which one looks more capable to you?
Inshallah, my brother. I believe that the Abraham Lincoln looks better.
One looks like a converted cargo ship, and one looks like a purpose-built aircraft carrier. So I think I have a funny feeling in the back of my head, that I think this Mohammed Lincoln might be a little bit crappy. I think it might not be exactly what they're sort of cracking it up to be.
Are you sure? I mean, that thing really looks like it could pose a threat. I mean, that plywood is probably pretty flame resistant.
I don't know. Like it could be possibly. Maybe because it's a cargo ship. Maybe it'll have I don't know. Maybe it'll like have a little commerce in it or something. I don't know.
Man, this Muhammad Lincoln down at the bottom, this is the one that deserves the hashtag beautiful floater. Like this one deserves that tag for sure. But let me get y'all back to this one because this wasn't the only poster that they put out today. They also had this one because nothing speaks destruction of America like a hawk carrying a burning pecan, and also war elephants. Apparently it's the times of Hannibal Barca and we're crossing the Alps to fight the Romans in the Second Punic War, because I don't really know how this is supposed to equate to the destruction of the U.S. Navy. You know, it doesn't really convey that to me too well.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's really cringy. They got to get off of AI. Like they got to ban them from that.
Man, someone in Iran found the AI like image generator, and they had been going ham. But we have one last propaganda video to show y'all. They have like the same theme. They're like, put an American in a casket, flag draped, and it's in every single one of their propaganda clips that they put out today. But here's another one. I would play the audio, but it's not really going to add much to this. You can see it's a coffin that has an American flag draped over it again. They love the imagery here. And then it pans out, oh my god, there's hundreds of them. I like how even in their propaganda, we still have the time while they're obliterating our ships to give all of our sailors a proper burial. It's like, I don't really know how in the hell that actually works. But anyways, they're all floating on the sea. And then as they pan out, oh my god, it's two Arleigh Burkes on fire. Oh wow, they're not really original. I mean, this is like the third variation of the same deal that we've seen in the clips they put out today. But they have an obsession with putting Americans in coffins and seeing the U.S. flag draped over them.
How does Iran think they're going to pull that off when a country like Russia couldn't even pull that off? It's like, you know, Iran's like, what, a fraction? Like, in Russia is pitiful. It's like, but Iran's a fraction of even Russia.
Here's my question. How in the world did they expect to do that to America when Israel was bombing their media centers in the capital of Tehran the last time this happened last year? It's like, how in the world did they even expect to do that? They couldn't even knock out Israel. Israel is literally about the size of an aircraft carrier for a nation. It's like, they couldn't even knock them out. How in the world did they expect to knock out the Abraham Lincoln, all three Arleigh Burkes, then all the other U.S. naval assets in the area, and all of the U.S. Air Force assets in the area as well, along with ground air defense? There's no way.
Yeah, they can't even buy non-exploding pagers and beepers. It's like they can't even manage that. It's like, how are they going to manage like to actually come into our fleet and succeed? It's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, it really is not. But moving on out of Bandar Abbas, we also were able to see up in Tehran somebody let out a pretty big security leak today. It was kind of cool. Up in the Lavazan neighborhood, there is a security area that we had believed for a while is housing Ali Khamenei's little hideout, his bunker under the mountain. The Lavazan neighborhood is a pretty high-end one, and it's generally used to be able to house the elite of the Iranian government. Somebody took a video today in that secure area and actually published it, which let us get a very good look at the complete layout on the ground inside of the secure area leading to the bunker entrance. And here it is.
Oh, wow. This is pretty good.
Oh, you see the guys with the walkie-talkies, that are clearly, being wired. Everyone walking around.
Oh, wait a minute. Was that the foreign minister right there? Was that the foreign minister walking out?
Is that Orgachi?
The?
Bro,
that looks like him. That really does look like him. But let's get a profile picture real quick. That guy, he's wearing a suit like he's an official, too. I mean, he looks facially similar a little bit.
That actually might have been Orgachi, because look at this. It's not that far off.
That isn't that far off. Like, and he's got the beard. The other guy's got a beard too, doesn't he? The guy in the video.
Yeah, and he does have hair. It's just that we can't really see it too well. That might have been the foreign minister.
That's right insane. They literally had him standing right there in front of the vehicle. That's crazy.
Bro, this guy literally smiled to the camera. He's like, security risk, whatever, hello. Like, it's like, bro, you don't know what this means for y'all. They're with the foreign minister, apparently.
Some people are saying it's not. I mean, I can see both sides of the argument. I mean, the guy had a beard. He was wearing the same suit. It kind of had the same hair, kind of gray. So, I mean, it could be. I'm not sure if too many other people that look like the foreign minister.
Yeah, you don't know. But now they made it through the gate. They're just driving around in here. And look at that. You can see the construction equipment, a Bobcat skid steer. They do have some taste, a little bit of taste.
Is it just me, or does this not look very secure? Like, this does not look secure.
No, it doesn't really look secure. I mean, it looks fairly unsecure, But this is what the Iranians have. Oh, look, there's the second entrance. There's a civil agent, an objects deposit gate.
Also, by the way, they didn't realize this guy right here was casing the joint, like as he was like slowly creeping around the entire perimeter. So this dude is like the most obvious like creeper, like around the perimeter you could possibly see, and the security's not paying any mind to him whatsoever.
Man, they're like, that's just BB. He just comes around, and he just cases the set every day. It doesn't really matter.
It's like a guy with a freaking TV camera pointing out the window, like filming the whole place, and nobody's even looking up.
Man, I gotta say. There's a lot of OSHA violations out here, the way the equipment's stored. And here's the office of the checkpoint. And then, I mean, it's honestly pretty wild. But yeah, someone just filmed it today. The rest of the clip's basically a repeat where they point out more stuff. But basically, someone just got in and cased the whole set out today of where Khamenei is literally hiding right now. So good on that guy. I mean, that was pretty impressive stuff. Unfortunately, we did get to hear, I cannot unfortunately play this clip. But we did get to hear that apparently a mother had been told by the IRGC in Tehran today that her son had been shot and killed as a part of the anti-government protests, and that his body had been cremated by the government, so that way there was no proof of the guy's existence. Because the mother was screaming about how they burned her son, and there's nothing left of him anymore, and such things as that. I cannot show that clip on air, but if y'all do want to see it, the link in the description below will bring you to this map. You can click on this marker, and then you can go to that link, and you can actually listen to the audio, and also the translation of it. But moving on out of Iran, we are going to be moving on into the further U.S. developments that we are seeing in the area right now. But before we move on into the external Middle Eastern situation outside of Iran, I do want to say that the U.S. is talking about something that's a little bit interesting here. And now that I've read that poll and had a minute to read it, I have to make sure to preface this with some of the news that we do have coming out of the Arabian Sea. So let me make sure to get to that really quickly, so y'all can have a little bit more information to be able to come up with your decision on this poll that we currently have running right now. We have been able to hear that the U.S. is planning a fairly significant air operation right now, and from what we've heard, the overall force posture suggests to be that the U.S. intends to carry out an initial strike to neutralize key targets like air defenses and air bases. Boom. Analysis dead on the nail on our end, because I said that would be like the first targets to be hit. Possibly using a mix of B-2s, F-35Cs, and EA-18G Prowlers, followed by potential several days or even a couple of weeks worth of further strikes using the F-15E Strike Eagles and other assets, stated John, a senior editor of the UK Defense Journal and open source military tracker at Defense Geek. The refueling tankers and cargo aircraft present would support those operations. During any initial strikes, I foresee F-15Es being used as air defense interceptors for the region, carrying a mix of traditional air-to-air missiles for defense against Iranian cruise missiles, and the APKWS guided rockets for use against any drones, according to this analyst, which is basically what we've been saying here on the channel, so it looks like some analysts are in agreement. It does appear, however, that a lot of people are starting to consider that there may be a fairly significant operation within the area against the Iranians that might last for some while, and it looks like it might be aiming at regime change. And Matthew, what are a lot of people thinking about that?
Okay, so right now, there's the poll that's currently running. The United States is saying that it will do an extensive campaign on Iran over the course of most likely, possibly a week or longer to achieve a regime change. That's the current word on the street. So is this a good idea? 56% said yes, we must have regime change, while 21% said make it short and effective only, and 18% said no, we don't need a new war in the Middle East. And this honestly sounds like the only way to go. Like, I would agree that this is probably the best action that the United States could take. But here's the problem, though. This is not something that the president can do without going to Congress and getting a declaration of war first, at least in my personal opinion, because the president has the ability to deploy troops in the case of a national emergency created by an attack on the United States. But if you're starting an extensive campaign where it's going to be over a week or longer and designed to basically take the country over, that's going to require a declaration of war, in my personal opinion. So this is something that I think they should do. Honestly, I think that he would have support if he decided to go with this. I'm not sure of too many people that would say, let's not tend to the situation, because the United States literally promised to help the protesters. We have heard that Iran's making a nuke, and also they're a huge, probably one of the largest regional threats anywhere in the area. So to deal with Iran is dealing with the proxy forces, it's dealing with the Houthis in Yemen, it's protecting Israel. So, I mean, I'm not sure how many people are going to reject going to war and dealing with the Iranian situation while it's very viable to do so. So I think it's warranted personally. I'm with the 56%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that we do need to see a regime change in Iran. It would be wildly beneficial for U.S. interest in the region, and it also would be beneficial to the people inside of Iran, the citizens who continue to be subjugated by the Iranian government. So I would say that a regime change would be beneficial to us and the Iranian people, and so for that reason, we should see that that's followed through on. I will not say that this would not become a contentious topic, because in America, we have a very interesting political landscape these days to basically whoever's in charge, whatever they do is wrong to half of the country, and then to the other half, it's never wrong and it's always right, no matter what. And so there might actually be a bit of an argument in the United States about whether we should strike Iran, because I can already hear the old sayings going around that we've been hearing for years every single time a president's about to do something, whether it's right or wrong. Oh my God, they're going to start World War III. They hate us all and they want us to die. And that sort of a stupid argument will be coming around. So I'm sure that there will be some people in America who are against this. A lot like there's people against the war in Ukraine and our continuing interest inside of Eastern Europe. But generally, I would say that this is a hugely beneficial thing for the United States of America. Because if we're looking at the general strategic situation, which we've talked about for many times in this channel over about the past 2 years, there is a very significant reason to see that the Islamic Republic of Iran's government is overthrown or completely removed from power. Iran poses a major strategic threat to the United States in more than one way, especially within the Middle East. The Middle East, as far as oil production, is the only corner of the globe that isn't directly within our sphere or the enemy sphere in the world, meaning that it's what we call on the channel free oil, meaning that it can go either way depending on who has the larger control in the region. Right now, the United States controls the Middle East, so that means that we control 2/3 of the oil produced on the globe for the most part right now. The United States is the largest oil producing country on the planet. Most of the other larger oil producing countries that are not in the Middle East are also within our Western sphere, and then the only other major oil producer globally is the Russian Federation. That leaves the Middle East basically making up that other third of of oil production that isn't seen inside the United States or Russia, meaning that it's wildly important for us to control this area, because by us controlling the oil assets that flow out of the Middle East, we are able to deprive the Chinese, which are our largest rival, of directly controlling that flow of oil, and therefore greatly enriching and benefiting their own sphere of influence at the detriment of ours. Iran is the very crux of the issue in continuing that sort of control inside the Middle East. Iran's terrorist forces attempted to stabilize multiple countries within the area and also try and threaten them and coerce them into generally leaving the United States of America's security assurance sphere to stop further harassment from the Iranians. And on top of that, the Islamic Republic of Iran is attempting to produce a nuclear weapon. We know that for sure because the Iranians are not denying that. They're openly admitting that they are trying to make a nuclear weapon. And secondly, they're also trying to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles to directly threaten the continental United States of America with a nuclear armed attack. Those are major strategic threats to the United States of America. If we're completely removing the situation with the massacres that have been going on the ground inside of Iran for those two reasons alone, really three, but the nuclear weapon and the ICBM are basically one and the same because you can't really have a success without one or the other. So for those two main issues alone, the Iranians pose a major national security threat to the United States of America, and for that reason, we have to be bound to act against them. And on top of that, right now, we have a significant reason outside of the strategic reasons to respond against the Islamic Republic of Iran because of their massacres and crimes against humanity that were just conducted within the past few weeks. That's why I would say that it's wildly beneficial for the United States to conduct a war against Iran and see that their regime is overthrown. And I'm sure that many people in the United States will be in full support of that, also seeing the brutality that was just conducted against their own people in the prior weeks. So I hope that I addressed that fairly well in my opinion.
Oh, also, by the way, real quick, I do want to say this because I see some people debating the point about whether or not the president has to get a declaration of war from Congress before we start an extensive campaign on Iran. That's up for debate. That's not something that's necessarily like written in stone. That's why I said in my personal opinion, because if we're starting an extensive campaign by nature, that's going to be basically trying to take over Iran at that point. And they're stating regime change might be the goal. So if that is the goal, that's a takeover of the country. I would say that is a wartime scenario. And also it's going to be over the course of a week or more. That's clearly not just simply a small operation. That's a war. So I would say personally, they should get a declaration of war. Like I said, I think he would have support, but he would not be the first president to not get a declaration of war. Just to make that clear, it's not political. In the past, like for example, during the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Operation Desert Storm, the Afghanistan War, the Iraq War, there was never a official declaration of war in any of those scenarios. They were all simply the president put forces there and it started and then it went from there. That's how it got started. There was no initial declaration of war starting that situation. It basically was a special military operation. That's basically what that was. So he would not be the first. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get a declaration of war, even though he probably should, because the precedent's already been set through those other conflicts that you really don't need it, or at least nobody's going to make an issue about it if you did it anyway.
Yeah, I would have to say that that's also true. And also another thing as well is that the War Powers Act of 1970, well, the War Powers Resolution of 1973, which is currently the standing War Powers Resolution that the president or generally the United States is bound to at the moment, allows for military action to be conducted for a 60-day period before they have to be withdrawn. But that can be extended for another 30 days beyond the 60-day period if the president sends a written submission to Congress stating that armed forces action is necessary for a short duration beyond that 60-day period, meaning that it technically can be extended into a 90-day military operation without the Congress having to give any sort of express consent or approval like a declaration of war or others. And on top of that, we've never seen that that has to be given in the past because no official declaration of war was made against the Taliban or against the Saddam's Iraq back in the day. Really any conflict ever since World War II that's never really been directly given. The U.S. never declared war on North Korea or the People's Republic of China during the Korean War. Neither did we do that against North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. We also never did that against Grenada, Panama, or any other country that we've invaded in the meantime. We did not do that during Operation Desert Storm in the Gulf War of 1991. And we also did not do that in Iraq and Afghanistan in the 2000s either. So technically there is an argument to be had there, a bit of a constitutional one, as to whether that would be constitutional or not, but the precedent that has been laid out for about the past 70 years would generally show that a declaration of war is not needed. And that seems to be more so of a modern political fiction that a lot of people are trying to create, because that has not been the case for the last 70 to 80 years.
Well, technically, if they're following the letter of the law, then they should get a declaration of war before they start putting forces into that situation, because the War Powers Resolution says the president can put forces there without a declaration, but that's in response to an imminent threat against the United States or our territory. I would say that, I mean, you could try to make the argument that Iran making a nuke is an imminent threat, which it is, but the threat's not really something new. I mean, the threat's been existing for years and years and years. So it's not like something that's happening like right this second. It's something that will happen in the future, but it's not immediate. So you could get the declaration of war. Honestly, I'm not sure. Like, I'm seeing some people say that there's going to be one group of political people saying they don't want war with Iran. There's going to be a different group saying they want it. I think there would be enough support to get that declaration. I think there would, because you have to remember that nobody really right now is saying that Iran's in the right. I mean, you hear a bunch of people, it's pretty much bipartisan at this point, that Iran is wiping its own people out to keep the government in charge, and nobody's in favor of that. So I mean, who's going to stand up on the congressional floor and say we should not intervene, even though we promised to intervene? We should not do that because it would look bad, even though they're wiping people out in the street. I'm not sure of many people that would say that, to be perfectly honest. I'm sure there's a couple of nutcases that would say it, but not a whole bunch of people. So that's just what I think personally.
Yeah, I don't really think anyone's going to get up and say, actually, I think 30,000 people being killed in 2 days is fine, and they got to keep doing it. You know, like, no one's going to say that. That would be wildly unpopular with the public. And also, that might end up having some implications for certain things that are happening inside the United States as well, because that would become a very complex topic, because people are going to intermingle the two together and then start making a fight out of that. So, but probably a lot of people wouldn't really be that much against military action at this point against the Iranians, because of what they've done recently. But with that in mind, I hope we have been able to address that poll well. And before we move on into the rest of the news that we have gotten out of the Middle East over the day, especially U.S. military movements in the area, and also a little bit of news out of the Second Syrian Civil War, we do want to make sure to get a couple of questions from the chat. We've had about 94,000 people watch this show in the first hour. We're entirely appreciative of all of y'all being here tonight. And in honor of that, we do want to make sure to get the chat with y'all for just a little minute here before we move on is the rest of our news. But make sure to stick around, folks, because we have tremendously large news coming out of every other corner of the globe today, and still larger news coming out of the Middle East. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so our first of 3 super chats goes to none other than Con45. And thank you very much, Con, for that $100 support, massive support, and we appreciate that. And that is by far the largest one of the night. And once again, a huge thanks to you for helping to keep the channel running with that support. He said, guys, Russia's lost over 75,000 tanks, armored vehicles, artillery systems, and anti-aircraft systems, and the Russian army is approaching 1.5 million in KIA and MIA, and the Black Sea Fleet has been annihilated, plus over 3,000 Bobcats. And that is true. He said, do you see any victory for Russia?
I would say no. There really isn't a way that Russia can strategically win this war, and they also cannot even tactically win a battle on the front lines at the moment. They are generally absolutely spent in capability, and to be entirely frank with y'all, they've kind of been spent in military capabilities ever since the summer of 2023, because we have seen that since then, the Russian Federation has made practically no frontline advances over the past 3 years, and most frontline advances are wildly small, usually only a mile or two of an advance, and usually cost about 40,000 killed each time, or even larger than that, like the Battle of Bakhmut. So I would have to say that generally, in my opinion, I don't really think that there is a way the Russian Federation can win, not just for this insurmountable losses that they've taken on the battlefield, but primarily because of the economic situation inside of Russia. They are losing money every day to an unbelievable measure. There's really no way for them to recover the economic situation, and for that alone, even if they were able to sustain this rate of losses for an indefinite period of time, they won't be able to finance the manpower or the equipment to sustain this period of losses for an indefinite period of time. So for both of those those reasons, both the equipment and the economic side of the coin, I would say that they really don't pose that much of a chance of continuing on any longer than they are right now. But I do thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Con, because folks like you help to make this channel possible and help us to keep this thing running. And if it wasn't for folks like you, we would have never been able to be on air for this long and keep this news running for so many people every single day. We've almost had 100,000 people watching the show tonight, and over the course of the past month, we've had 6 million people watch the channel. We're wildly appreciative for everyone watching that, and if it wasn't for folks like you who supported this channel and went out of your way to help us to be able to do this, we wouldn't be able to keep our lights on, we wouldn't be able to pay our bills, and we wouldn't be able to keep this kind of news running every single day. We're funded directly by the viewers, and we're always greatly appreciative of folks like you, because you keep the channel alive for everyone involved, me and Matthew and the entirety of the LSA. So a humongous thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our second one goes to Numerian45, and thank you very much, Numerian, for that $50 support, and we do appreciate that very, very much. Very generous. And Numerian said, I heard Iran was moving bodies to Tehran to stage them in hospitals and schools, since the IRGC are occupying, like Hamas does, in these civilian places. That way they can say that the United States was the one that eliminated the civilians.
I would say that there is a chance, but the problem with that, though, and we kind of discussed this last night, this kind of gets into a little bit more of a morbid reality, is that none of those corpses are being embalmed. And so they're in a fairly warm climate. It's not incredibly humid, but there is still some humidity in Tehran. So it's a fairly warm environment. It's a fairly humid environment. And by now, a lot of them are probably already bloating or going through somewhat significant decay at the moment. So if a U.S. airstrike was conducted and you saw a whole bunch of corpses that were in very late stages of decay, it really won't be that convincing to say, look, the U.S. just bombed all of these innocent people, especially if they're in an IRGC headquarters or a government building, because why in the world would that many civilians be in an IRGC headquarters or a government building? That wouldn't really make a lot of sense. And then on top of that, those bodies are wildly decomposed at that point, so then that really wouldn't stand to scrutiny, because a U.S. bombing doesn't rapidly decompose people, where, 1 hour of death results in 3 or 4 weeks of decomposition. So I would say that that's probably unlikely. The Iranians probably won't really do that. And also on top of that, they don't really want to leave a lot of proof of this behind, because a lot like the Germans in World War II, there's a pretty significant sort of an attempt to kind of downplay how bad this really was. Because if you ask the Germans during World War II if the Holocaust was going on, most of them in the German government would have said yes, but it's not that big. And they would also try and back that up by generally cremating as many bodies as they could, so that way there was no proof of what was actually happening. And they would generally burn and destroy records and all the like as well. We understand the Iranians are doing that inside of Iran at this point, because we have heard that apparently they're bringing the bodies to Iran to some sort of a collection site where they dispose of the bodies. And we believe that at the moment, also based off of the video recording I wasn't able to show y'all today, they're apparently cremating hundreds or thousands of the bodies of these people who have been executed, so that way if the US military or any other armed force comes into Iran, or the government is overthrown, the Iranians will be able to say afterwards, anyone who might be alive or left in the Iranian government, well, it wasn't really that bad, and you can't really prove that it was that bad, because, there were only 3,000 bodies, there weren't 30,000 like you were saying, and it would be hard to have proof because they've burned most of the remains to ashes. So we believe that that's what's happening in Iran at the moment, very similarly. So I don't really think they'd want to keep a lot of the bodies around, one, because they are decomposing already, and two, because they're generally trying to remove as much evidence as possible of the atrocities that they have conducted in Iran, not only for the outside world, but also for the people in Iran, so that way they can run some sort of interference and tell the public, hey, look, you might have seen a guy get shot on your street, but there weren't thousands of them getting killed all over the country. That's just a myth. But I hope that does address it the best I can, at least in my opinion, because sick people like these in a government like Iran or in Germany back in the 1930s and 40s, they think in a very sick way. They will conduct extremely sick acts, but at the same time, they understand how depraved it is. And so they generally try and remove or delete any evidence that they can, so that way future generations, or even just years down the road, people can try and outright deny how bad something was. I mean, look at people today. I mean, a lot of people try and deny that the atrocities that happened in Germany in World War II never happened, although they clearly did. And there's plenty of documentation and proof by U.S. forces that liberated a large amount of those camps back in the day. But anyways, With that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, it's time for us to get on into the final question of this segment. And then we're going to be getting on into the rest of our major news from around the world. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so our last one of the segment goes to none other than Chris Feilbach. And thank you very much, Chris, for that $50 support once again tonight. And we do appreciate that support, as always. And Chris said, I don't think those helicopters that were delivered by Russia to Iran are for the U.S. military attacks. I think they might be for the protesters in Iran. Honestly, Chris, like it's a decent theory, but I have a feeling that it is a face-saving measure for Russia to make it look like they're not abandoning Iran. If they wanted to deal with the protesters, they could have helped out in other ways than the helicopters. They could have helped with mercenary forces, which I think they did, and all sorts of other methods. So I think the helicopters are simply for face-saving, and the Russians know that. I'm not sure if the Iranians fully understand that, but I think the Russians did it with that understanding. I don't think they're necessarily for the protesters. It could be, but I would have doubts about it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, can you reread that question again really quickly?
He doesn't think the helicopters for the U.S. military. He thinks they're for the protesters.
Yeah, I would generally doubt that they're for the protesters, because an Mi-28 really wouldn't be that effective in an anti-protester sort of a deal, because they're not, like, the protesters aren't armed for the larger part. Some of them were armed, but not a large number of them, so this sort of firepower really wouldn't be necessary. And on top of that, the Mi-28's main gun is a 2A42 30mm autocannon, and so if they were trying to use the autocannon instead of anything else that would be far more destructive, like, say, S8 rocket pods, they would use the 2A42 autocannon, and that's the main gun from a BMP-2. And generally, from what we know, from what we've seen of Mi-28s that have operated in very limited form in Ukraine, the spread on the autocannon is wildly inaccurate. It's pretty much like a mass dispersion form of fire, because it is not concentrated at all. The vibration from the recoil basically throws the gun off every single shot. So once that first shot's fired, every single one of the others is completely off the mark, meaning there would be significant damage in a wider area if this was attempted to be used against protesters, and then that really wouldn't work later for denial of the atrocities that would happen, because the damage from the shots fired from the helicopter's main gun would clearly be visible on a wide amount of buildings in the surrounding area. So I would say, I would doubt it. I think this is actually supposed to be some sort of attempted help to the Iranians against the United States. But, of course, the Russians are just trying to scrounge up whatever isn't necessary. And at this point, helicopters are rarely used in Ukraine. So this is one of the only things that they can give to the Iranians that they can spare. And I think that's why it was given. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this channel possible and help to keep it running. And we're always wildly appreciative of folks like you, Chris, who help this channel to keep rolling, because you make it a reality for us and millions of people every month. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, folks, it's time for us to move on into the rest of the news from the night. Also, by the way, I've seen some people mentioning that I'm talking quickly tonight. Sorry if some people are having a hard time keeping up. I just know, because we put all these markers down earlier, there's a huge amount of news, and I'm trying to make sure to keep up a good pace to get through all of it. So if it sounds like I'm going fast, it's intentional tonight, because we are only about maybe a quarter away through the news, and it's already been about an hour and 10 minutes, so I'm trying to make sure to keep this up to where we can get to all of it. But moving on from that and on down into the Arabian Sea, we have been able to hear that apparently, according to the Secretary of State, this was his statement today. We have 30 to 40,000 American troops stationed across 8 or 9 facilities in that region. All are within reach, theoretically, not theoretically in reality. All are within reach of an array of thousands of Iranian one-way UAVs and Iranian short-range ballistic missiles that threaten our troop presence. We have to have enough force and power in the region just on a baseline to defend against that possibility that at some point, as a result of something, preemptive strikes that is, the Iranian regime decides to strike at our troop presence in the region. The president always reserves the preemptive defensive option. That's basically a defensive. There is no such thing as a preemptive defensive option. It's just a defensive option, which is what we're exercising at the moment. So right now, the Secretary of State is saying that all of our force deployments in the area, at least for now, is purely defensive and not offensive. We have also been able to hear the president make the following statement as well today. A massive armada is heading to Iran. It is moving quickly, with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose. It is a larger fleet, headed by the great aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, than that sent to Venezuela.
So it wasn't a second. It was just the one.
Also, I just gotta say this, folks. This drives me crazy. Why in the hell does everything always have to be bigger and better than the last time? Like, the Abraham Lincoln is a 50-year-old aircraft carrier. It is, in theory, weaker than the Gerald R. Ford. Why the hell is it that every time the president does anything, he always has to make it sound like it's bigger and better than last time? He could be like, we bought a shitbox Honda Civic, the greatest car ever, better than a Bugatti Chiron. It's like, you don't have to say that about everything. It's just the carrier strike group. It doesn't have to be the biggest and the greatest one on the planet. It's a 50-year-old carrier.
That hype talk had everybody thinking yesterday that a second armada was heading to Iran. Everybody was saying, "Oh, looks like a second's going there," and we were like, well, "A second?" It's like, where's the second at? Like I was saying that yesterday. I said I haven't seen a second armada going to Iran. Like I'm not sure where this is at, and everybody was speculating. Oh, maybe it's like a secret armada moving toward Iran. It turns out apparently it was just a slip of the tongue, I guess you could say.
Man, I think yesterday I said it's probably just like sales talk or something like that. It's probably something else, or it's nothing. But moving on from that, the statement then moves on to say, like with Venezuela, it is ready, willing, and able, it sounds like a work application here, to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. Hopefully Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons. One that is good for all parties. Now, I do have to say that this tweet basically disproves everything that he said last year in the summer, because last year in the summer he said that the Iranians had completely lost their nuclear enrichment and weapons development capabilities, but now we are moving this carrier strike group into the area, according to his own words, to negotiate for them to not develop nuclear weapons, because their abilities to develop nuclear weapons weren't completely destroyed last year, just like we said. Holy moly, the political people's minds are exploding, because it's crazy. For 4 years, we have not worked off of a political vein, and once again, we were right. Oh my god. But anyways, time is running out. It is truly of the essence. The time is running out means that apparently they're still working on it, and time is truly running out. As I told Iran before, make a deal. They didn't, and there was Operation Midnight Hammer, a major destruction of Iran. We forgot to mention that was specifically on nuclear sites. The next attack will be far worse. Don't make that happen again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The President of the United States. So it does
appear... Got to appreciate the customer service sign-off at the end of that. They're like literally threatening a full-scale war in the country. Talking about, and thank you for your attention to the matter. We do appreciate your cooperation. Sincerely, the customer service department.
We will send the great Lord of Venezuela, Marco Rubio, to destroy your ass. Thank you for your business. Come back again. Like, it's like...
I don't understand the sign off at the end. Not just trying to nitpick, but the sign off at the end always it always gets me. It's written, honestly, it's written like somebody else wrote the thing for him. Like it's the way it's written. It's written almost like a transcribed letter or something. I'm not sure if somebody's writing this on his behalf or something, but that sign off at the end, if he's writing this himself, that's unhinged. To sign off your name and say thank you for the attention like that. That's kind of unhinged.
I'm not gonna lie, it's honestly, folks, this tweet was actually kind of funny. I was having a hard time not just breaking out laughing through the whole thing. But apparently, with the whole reason we're over there now is to try and stop them from developing nuclear weapons again, just like we were last year. So appears our analysis was correct last year. Midnight Hammer did not completely destroy their nuclear enrichment and weapons development capabilities, which a lot of people were absolutely blasting us over last year because we said it clearly didn't, and we need to conduct further strikes in a longer air campaign, and everyone got angry at us because we were saying that the president did something wrong and it wasn't done perfectly the first time, which was clearly the case back then, because we don't work off of politics. It's just the reality of how things are and what would be the best outcome and what would be the best thing to do to get that outcome. But some people don't get that. And someone's about to say, why do you hate the president? I don't hate anyone. I'm just saying what the facts are and what would be a good move to do based off of the facts. If you don't like that, be a snowflake somewhere else. But anyways, moving on from that, we also were able to see that another C5 Galaxy flew into Al-Hadid today. So it appears they're moving in some heavy equipment. And also, what do we have? Oh, look! It's the C5 Galaxy leaving Al-Hadid. Wow.
Oh, they're leaving. I bet you. I have a feeling that they might have delivered some air defense systems. That's just my guess. I think it could be. I think they saw on satellite that I think it might have been Al-Hadid or Al-Hadid, however you say the thing. I think they dropped off a Patriot and they set it up in one of the little Patriot areas.
Oh, yeah, that was, I believe, yesterday. I think we have that marker right here. Yeah, we do. This was the satellite picture of the Patriot battery. Oh, look at all that. Look at all those Chinese characters right here. That Mandarin. I wonder who put this picture out.
Yeah, I wonder. Also, it's interesting. The Chinese have AI-based like weapons detection on this satellite imagery right here, so they don't even have to have a manual like analyst to go through here and identify each part of the system. It looks like AI might have done it for them.
Yeah, it looks like it might have. Because it also doesn't really look like they differentiated the units. It's just all. Well, actually, they did designate the radar. Actually, that's the ANMPQ 65 right there. So they actually did designate all of them differently. But anyways, moving on from that, it appears that C5 that was arriving at Al Adid at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so that would have been 7 hours ago, is now leaving. You can see it right here. Look at that big fella go. That is a big aircraft, by the way, folks. Let me go show y'all a C5 Galaxy next to another aircraft, if I can find a picture of that. Oh, here we go. So this is a C5 Galaxy versus the C-17. The C-17 is the backbone of U.S. airlift operations. The C-5 Galaxy is our super heavy lift aircraft. That's the difference.
Interesting.
It's pretty insane, honestly. Like, these things are humongous. Usually they're used to move specialized equipment that is fairly large from place to place, and it appears that whatever it landed in Al Adid with, it's already dropped it off and it's leaving the area to go pick up something else and then bring that into the Middle East as well. So we do understand that's currently ongoing at the moment, and we also saw that an RC-135W rivet joint, or sorry, RC-135V rivet joint has also arrived at Al Adid earlier today as well. So it appears that the rivet joints a rivet joint will be operating in CENTCOM's area of responsibility. Moving on from that, we also were able to hear that the USS Delbert D. Black, which is an early Burke guided missile destroyer, has arrived within the area of the Eastern Mediterranean and will be stationed as an air defense platform to defend Israel against incoming attacks from the Iranians, basically using the VLS cells on board as a floating Patriot or THAAD battery. Hell, it's way better than the THAAD battery even. This is the air defense apex at this point for the United States. So we basically parked a giant air defense battery outside of Israel today, and it'll probably be joined by other destroyers over the next coming days. We've also been able to hear that the United States will be moving a THAAD battery into the region, most likely into Israel, to prepare for anti-ballistic missile defense and exo-atmospheric interceptions if those are necessary. So it does appear that the Army will be working on that here in the short meantime, and we'll probably see some flights enter Jordan, and then they'll have to make the little drive into Israel. Of course, by the way, I do have to make the mention, that C5 Galaxy or C-17s that are carrying that THAAD will, of course, have to skirt all the way around Israeli airspace because we're not allowed to fly through, but then we'll drive the U.S. Army's air defenses into Israel. But anyways, moving on.
That really drives you crazy, doesn't it?
It does, man.
Situation. It drives you crazy. You mention that every single time.
It does, man, because it's like we're literally putting in our own air defense into a country to defend its skies, and that country won't even allow us to fly through their airspace. Like, that just pisses me off. Like, it really does piss me off.
They got trust issues, man. They got trust issues.
Well, they're
a little flamboyant. That's all. They're a little flamboyant.
They're a little flamboyant, Kathleen. But anyways, I mean, let's look at. Okay, so let's see what's coming in. What is this? Archaea, operated by High Fly Malta. I've never heard of that airline before. I mean, look at the I don't know what's up with that. It just annoys the hell out of me, though. It's like, if we're going to be putting an air defense system in their country, why the hell can we not fly our military aircraft over Israel? I'm not saying they have to land in Israel. Why can't we just fly over their airspace, though? And before someone tells us, oh, that's dangerous. Oh, come on now. There are literally civilian airliners taking off and landing there every day. If it was that dangerous, they wouldn't be approved to conduct civilian flights in the area. It's not like the Gaza Strip operates a pantsir air defense system, or they even have man-pats. They don't have any of that stuff. The Israelis fly Apaches over the Gaza Strip and the West Bank every day. There is no air defense threat over Israel at all. The reason why
they probably don't want surveillance flights going over, like, covert surveillance flights, because even though we're allies with Israel, the United States spies on them just like Israel spies on us. So they're probably worried about someone sending over like spy equipment in an aircraft or something. It's probably why they're not wanting that.
Yeah, maybe, but that's still goofy though, because we bring Israeli pilots to the United States for training. But God forbid we fly a C-17 over to drop off an air defense system in Jordan and then drive right back into Israel. God forbid we do that. We have to fly all the way around Israel through the Red Sea up into Jordan to get there. I mean, that's just stupid. I find that whole thing to be absolutely ridiculous, and I also find it to be ridiculous that people are like, well, Israeli airspace is dangerous when there's literally an endless line of flights arriving and leaving from Israel that have hundreds of passengers on board that are civilians. If it was that dangerous, they wouldn't be flying in. So a U.S. military aircraft could easily fly over Israel if the Israelis would allow it. But anyways, with that, we are going to be moving on from that little thing. Just a little bit of an aggravation point that I have that still is not ever being brought up and addressed by the U.S. government, how that is the case. But anyways, moving on up into Syria, we did get to hear that while Jelani is crushing the Kurds today, apparently they gave them a little token of something. And I gotta say, whoever put this line at the top of the page, they did really good. Like, they had a very steady hand here with the pen, because it was almost perfectly straight until you made it right under the eagle, and then there was this, like, little bow that happened right there. But they did make a declaration today. The Syrian Interior Minister, Anas Khattab, announced the immediate implementation of directives under Presidential Decree number 13, issued by President Ahmed al-Shara, granting Syrian citizenship and rights to Kurds in northeastern Syria that were previously denied under the government of Bashar al-Assad. So while they are up there massacring the Kurds right now, they finally have citizenship. So instead of being executed as non-citizens, they'll be executed as citizens. A worthy death of the Syrian people, I'm sure. And also, by the way, while they did that token move today, just being a little sarcastic here, it appears that Ahmed al-Shara is showing who's really his buddies, because he arrived at the Kremlin today and met the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin.
Can we show this? Can we show this? Can we show this?
What are the charges? Enjoying a video? A cycling foreign policy video?
It is weird, though. Like, the Russian relationship with Syria is a hard one to figure out based on public information, because he's meeting with Putin here in the Kremlin, which suggests there still is some sort of diplomatic ties. However, it was Jelani that kicked them out previously, so there's a contradiction there. Also, we have seen the Russians leaving Kamishli, the air base there. We saw them leaving that. They were packing up the other day and heading out. So it's like, why are the Russians, they got kicked out, they're leaving, but yet they're also keeping ties open with Jelani to a certain degree. I got to admit, though, it's a bit concerning to see this, because not only is Jelani alleged or accused of letting his guys release ISIS fighters from prisons, but now he's also meeting with one of the U.S.'s biggest adversaries on top of that. So it's certainly not stacking up good for him, that's for certain.
Yeah, I would have to say it's really not stacking up good. It's looking a little questionable, a little questionable for sure. And I also have to add in, folks, here just for a moment, that this is technically formalizing relations with the Russian Federation, this meeting, because up until now, the new Syrian interim government has had no formalized relations to any capacity with the Russian Federation, and an official state visit of the president of Syria, the interim president, that is, who will probably end up being the dictator, is basically the official reformalization of relations between the new Syrian government and the Russians. Don't know why they're doing that. We all know why they're doing that, but we're just going to say, for sarcasm's sake, don't know why they're doing that, but it is quite suspicious, I would have to say. Also, someone looked at this guy in the back in the right corner and said, what type of stupid-looking salute is that? Well, if y'all don't know, Putin brought back in 2014 the Russian ceremonial guards of the Kremlin Guards Regiment, which are these guys right here, and they dress up in these absolutely ridiculous Halloween-style costume uniforms, which are supposed to be inspired off of the Napoleonic armies of the Russian Empire from about the 1810s or so, which is basically...
Wait, isn't that the one that's the ones that Rinky Dink used to wear, isn't it? That's why you brought those back.
Это слушай Rinky-Dink device. Like, it's I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely stupid. Let me see if I can get you all a little picture of these guys saluting, because it's the Kremlin Regiment that does this. Kremlin Regiment salute. There's got to be images of this online. Oh, let's see here. Any minute now. Any minute. I'll be able to find you all one of these. Because there has to be one of them where they do the door salute thing. There's not a one? I mean, this stuff is ridiculous. And they don't have a single picture of it on Google Images. I mean, you gotta be kidding me here. Like, but, anyways, that stupid salute is what they do when they open a door. Like, to explain it really quickly, when they open a door, they have a specific process where they march forward, then they take a left face, grab the door handle, and then they do like a semicircle as they march back. Then they tilt up their head, basically looking up to the roof, and then they salute, snap their head over to the left to whoever's entering, and then their head follows them as they enter the room. It's the dumbest drill I've ever seen in drill unveiling ceremony. It looks absolutely ridiculous. And also their uniforms look stupid as well. It's a mix of the modern Soviet-style, like, sea green uniform and then an attempt to make it look like it's from the 19th century. It's utterly ridiculous and bizarre looking. But anyways, moving on from that, we are going to be moving back on down into Syria because we did get to hear that in the meantime, the Jelani forces are still releasing ISIS prisoners and have released several hundred more from the Al-Hol camp, which was also within SDF territory until today. We can actually see that the Jelani forces are so elated with releasing what is basically the very evil of the Middle East back into the wilds of Syria that they actually started to celebrate with celebratory gunfire.
Nothing like a little celebratory gunfire.
Man. Al-Hasakah! Man. Yeah, baby!
They're not quite used to the sound. It's been a minute since they've heard such a sound like that.
Oh, they'll be getting used to it again, I'm sure. Now that they're free, they'll probably get familiar with that again. We also got to see that the SDF is trying to put up its last stands for the large fire at this point, and was conducting MLRS fire against Jelani forces south of Al-Hasakah today. Still, the battle goes on. We don't have a lot of information on that at the moment, but we do understand that the SDF is largely on the losing side of this confrontation and is still being crushed by the Jelani regime. Finally, moving us on out of the Middle East and towards Central Asia, we also were able to see that there were some Pakistani movements in Balochistan today, which appear to be showing preparations for counterinsurgent operations against the Balochistani independence movement.
Look at this land, by the way. Like on a side note, I mean, look at this. It's like a Martian landscape out here.
It's the desert of Pakistan, and it's snow-covered. It's really bizarre looking, honestly.
Yeah, it really is, especially that mountain range over there on the left.
Yeah, it is crazy. Also, we believe that the tanks that were on the back of those trucks, although we really couldn't take a good look at them, they're probably the Al-Khalid. Let me see if I can get you all that really quickly to give you all a picture. Here we go. This one right here. This is a fairly common main battle tank in the Pakistani armed forces, and we believe that those are the ones being moved down there in Balochistan in that video. So, moving us on out of that, and on out of Pakistan, it is time for us to move on over into China, because we do have some news coming out of China. A little bit more of a summary. It wasn't anything that actually happened today. It's just more so of like a broader statement in the summary, and there's also a million bits of misinformation coming out over the course of the day about what's going on in China. Chinese leader Xi Jinping is stripping down his military command and is starting over from what we're generally hearing. China has dismissed 60 top generals since 2023, which is 1 in 5 top military officials that have been promoted by Xi, and those are also being investigated as well. So it does appear that at the moment there is still a pretty significant amount of, I guess you could say, purging that's going on in China, like there has been over the past 3 years. Still, a lot of people are actually talking about the Jelani regime and its position with the United States at this point. And Matthew, are people thinking that the Jelani regime is starting to turn against the West and the United States, or are they thinking that there's still a little bit of hope there? And what are you thinking as well?
Okay, so jumping back for just a second to the Jelani situation inside of Syria. Now that we're seeing that Putin met with him in the Kremlin, and we don't really know the details of the meeting, that was obviously kept kind of covert. So we don't know what was discussed, if there's any agreements, we simply don't know. What are your thoughts about that? 54% said Jelani is now against the United States, teaming with Russia like that. 19% said Jelani is simply being diplomatic. He's trying to be a leader. While 19% said it seems odd, but we need more info. And I would say, certainly seems odd. That's definitely for certain. Jelani is, of course, he's courting the United States, and he's gotten sanctions lifted against Syria. He's been, once again, pretending like he's going to go full U.S., but the more concessions that Jelani's gotten, the more anti-United States he's gotten. He's letting the ISIS fighters, allegedly, out of the prisons. He's now teaming up with Russia. We don't even know what he's done at this point. It's kind of being kept secret, probably on purpose. So Jelani is going definitely away from the United States. So it might be time to reverse some of those sanctions relief measures that the United States put on Syria, it might be time to reverse it or tell him to back off, one or the other. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I believe that Jelani is generally moving against the United States at this point, and he basically played the United States in the prior administration and the current one to get to where he is right now. I would say that his official formalization with Russia in relations right now is probably showing that they're already trying to make that shift, because they probably understand in Syria that this sort of terrorist government that they're basically running at this point, terrorizing the people of Syria, is probably not going to be that favorable for too long with the U.S. government, and the writing will be on the wall that that relationship will end, which will leave them with no allies. So they're already trying to move on towards Russia or someone else to be able to make sure that they'll be able to remain in power. So basically, we replaced Assad, who was a Russian-aligned government, with Jelani, who is also a Russian-aligned government, or probably will be becoming one here in the future. I think we might want to fix that wrong right now while we have the chance, before this guy solidifies his position, and then it'd be pretty hard, if not impossible, to be able to try and reverse it then without causing significant disruptions and huge diplomatic rows around the entire world about what we'd be doing at that point. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. And with that, it is time for us to move on out of the area of the Middle East, and also out of China, considering our brief cover of the information there. And it's time for us to move on over towards Venezuela, because we have been able to hear today that apparently a jet went missing near to the area of the Venezuelan-Colombian border. Not long after, it was then confirmed that the jet had crashed and all 12 people on board had been killed, actually 15 people, including 2 Colombian politicians. So we see the crash and the debris right here on the border. Very unfortunate.
Seems a little bit strange, doesn't it? The 2 Colombian officials on board the plane. Also, with it being on the Venezuelan border, we don't know what caused the crash. Like, that's an unknown right now, but it seems a bit strange. You know, borders typically have air defense, especially Venezuela. They might be on high alert. There's no maybe. They're definitely on high alert. They're expecting the U.S. to possibly do something to them again because Delcy's not cooperating. So I wonder if there's any foul play involved in this at all.
I wonder. I wouldn't really be sure of that yet at the moment, but it is a possibility, a slight possibility at least. But moving on from that, we are going to be moving on towards the coast, as we have been able to hear that one of the tankers that was seized by the United States is apparently going to be handed back over to Venezuela after it had been seized about a month ago, according to 2 U.S. officials who spoke to Reuters today. Additionally, the Russian sailors of the Marinera, who were involved in sanctions evasion, once again that footage presented here by the United States Coast Guard as they seized the Marinera just north of the United Kingdom, are going to be released. 2 Russian soldiers have been freed from the Marinera, a tanker previously seized by U.S. forces. Earlier, the president had promised to secure the release of Russian citizens. In December, U.S. forces captured 7 Shadow Fleet oil tankers off the coast of Venezuela for transporting oil in violation of U.S. Treasury sanctions. At least 6 of these tankers have links to Russia. The Marinera oil tanker raised the Russian flag in the middle of the ocean after U.S. forces began pursuing it. So it does appear clear at the moment that the United States is trying to lower the tensions with the Russians, because we basically seized about 6 of their shadow tankers in about a very short period of time. So we're trying to lessen the blow to the Russians by giving back 2 of their guys. Honestly, the guys really aren't that important. I think that they should be held on trial, though, for sanctions evasion. I think that should be the case. But they aren't that important. It's more important to seize the ship, because the Russian sailors won't be able to, just like get like a hose and like just drink up a whole bunch of oil and then like swim their way to China or India to go sell it. So really, it's more so the ship that's more important than the sailors. But at the same time, I think that the sailors should have stood trial, in my opinion. But anyways,
Yeah, why couldn't they have like tried to negotiate for the release of some U.S. Hostages or prisoners inside of Russia in exchange for giving the Russian sailors back? It seems like they could have negotiated something like that instead of just handing them back with nothing to show for it.
Yeah, I mean, we could have parlayed with the Russians, which is an advanced term, folks, meaning that we negotiate hostage situations with them. We could have parlayed with them, but then we didn't. We just gave them away. And, it's like, I gotta say, folks, the Russians really know how to play this game. They get a WNBA basketball player, and then they trade them for the Merchant of Death. It's like, can't we parlay like that? Take these 2 Russian sailors and trade them for like the Harbinger of Doom or something like that the Russians are holding in prison right now. Couldn't we do something similar? I feel like we could have, but we kind of missed out on an opportunity right here. I guess, folks, I'm just not a 4D chess player like the president. I guess this is truly the art of the deal, is just giving people away for free instead of parlaying with the Russians and actually getting a fair exchange going on. But moving on from that and on up into Washington, we also were able to hear that apparently the Secretary of State is now going to be meeting with Maria Corina Machado later today, because now that we're seeing that Delcy Rodriguez and the rest of the extremist socialist regime in Venezuela is not willing to really work with the United States, it appears that we're now revisiting Machado to go, hey, can you try and spurn up that anti-revolutionary stuff that you had going on in Venezuela so we can use you again to get another leader that we want and then toss you under the bus again once we're done with that? Could we do that? I think that's why they're meeting with her today, or later today that was. It was to see if they could try and get her set up to start running the pro-U.S. sentiments in Venezuela again, to see that the U.S. might eventually be able to go in and completely topple the current government that still is clearly Maduro-aligned and working off of the ideals of Hugo Chavez. So with that, we are going to be moving on from that. Gotta say, folks, you could have avoided that whole embarrassment and that whole awkward situation right there if you had just listened to us the first time. Because while we weren't a big fan of conducting any military operations against Venezuela right now, and while we thought that the military operation to kidnap Maduro was a wild success, but really didn't do a lot for us in foreign policy, we said this very clearly, folks, leading up in the months to it. You would have to go down in Venezuela and completely dismantle their government from the ground up and rebuild it to see that anything would work. And it turns out that we were right. And now the U.S. government is having to go back to square one and start off where we said would have been a good place to start, which is building the government up from the ground up and completely dismantling it, instead of just nabbing Maduro like it's a movie and then the whole thing falls apart. I gotta tell y'all, folks, here's a little bit of a shocker for y'all. This isn't the movie world, and this isn't the movie 300. If you kill Xerxes, the Persian army isn't going to just go running for the hills. That's not how it works in real life. You kill Xerxes, the next guy under Xerxes takes his place and nothing changes. You have to completely win and then dismantle the whole thing. That's the only way that that works. Any other attempt to do otherwise will end in utter failure. And while the military operation was really cool, I don't think anyone could disagree on that. I mean, it was truly impressive. It didn't achieve what we needed in foreign policy. So a really cool military operation that was then followed by an utter failure in foreign policy, which was expected. But moving on out of Venezuela, it's now time for us to get on into Europa, and specifically the war in Ukraine, because we have a lot of information that's been coming out today from the Russian Federation to Ukraine in this ongoing war. First off, we were able to hear that the Russians lost an Su-34 in Kursk because it crashed. Both the pilot and the co-pilot, or basically the bombardier, both died in the crash, meaning that the Russians are now down one fighter bomber and also two pilots, and of course ground and sky. But nevertheless, it appears that there was also reports.
Do you have the statement though? By the way, do you have the statement from the Russian back channels when they talk about this? I didn't see one from fighter bomber, but I saw one from a different channel that was talking about this. Their reaction was, crazy as usual. Like it was a wild reaction. Do you have that?
No, I don't actually. Could you get that for us really quickly on the likes tab?
Yep. I just got under the likes tab. Let's go take a look. We got to show y'all this. They always say the craziest stuff when they lose a jet. They start losing their minds. They said, "Heroes don't die. We will help families. There is nothing to comment here. War, mother of it, effing war. Honestly, we've been hoping, praying, and believing since lunch. But words
Bro,
of,
since
like
lunch.
a poet. Since lunch, he's been thinking about this since lunch. He ate he ate the foot-long sub sandwich. He's been thinking about it ever since then. He said, "This effing war, mother of it." I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what the hell any of this means. But it's another crazy statement. The Russians lose their mind about this.
Man, Blood wrote a haiku. Someone give me that traditional, Japanese music playing in the background. Heroes don't die. We will help families. There's nothing to comment here. War, mother of it, effing war. Honestly,
I can't believe that. I can't believe, man, that fighter bomber didn't make a statement about it. Like, that's the guy that usually says, "Earth is sky, brothers. Ground is up, and sky is down." And like, he says this crazy stuff like that.
The carpet's made of shag or something along those lines. Like, it's like, but yeah, well, remember, fighter bomber's kind of been ousted from the group. Remember, he kind of got thrown out of the circle a while ago.
He did?
Yeah, remember, like, he was getting a little bit critical of the Russian Air Force and the Russian Army in the war and how they were basically costing unnecessary amounts of lives. So then he started to say, "Oh, a whole bunch of officers are treating me different now, and they're kind of putting me at arm's length." And I think he's kind of getting out of the circle at this point. So other people are kind of having to take his place.
That's a damn shame for that guy right there. We will miss his poetry. That guy could have been the next. He could have been the next. Poet. I don't know a whole bunch of poets off the top of my head. He could have been Edgar Allan. He could have been the next Edgar Allan Poe, if that was his name. He could have been him, but his chances are flown past.
Man, flown right by him, I say. But One thing that we do not know of yet is whether the Su-30SM crashed in the Black Sea or not. That was a rumor today. We couldn't confirm that the Su-30SM crashed, so there might have been a second jet that went down today in the Black Sea, both of them from crashes, apparently not being directly shot down by the Ukrainians, but still, pretty good thing to hear. We also were able to hear, speaking of some other stuff, that at Kaluga, the Volkswagen factory, or the former Volkswagen factory, burned to the ground. We have no idea why, and the Russians apparently didn't really conduct a lot of firefighting efforts, and they say that it's under investigation. I think this may have been some sort of a form of arson that was conducted by a saboteur or someone inside of Russia. But here's the clip. There's one fire truck.
There's a lot of fire just breaking out all over Russia. Like, it seems like it's increasing in frequency these days.
Do you know the word in Russian for fire?
Bliat.
Man, wait, hang on. Man, I got one. Dorogna. Hey, children, can you help me find the vodka? Man, like it's like Dora the Explorer, but Russian. It's like, man. Oh, man.
Papa, it's on the counter.
Let us use our helpful map. You're in Ukraine. Okay, that was good enough to know. But anyways, moving on from that and on up into Moscow, we do have a little bit of additional news, as we were able to hear that apparently China is helping Russia to ramp up its production of Oreshnik missiles. And when we mean ramp it up, we mean about 5 a year, so it's not really a lot of them. But it does appear that Beijing is supplying Moscow with machine tools and equipment, without which the production of hypersonic ballistic missiles would be impossible. In particular, Chinese CNC machines were found at the Votkinsk plant, where the Oreshnik Iskander-M and intercontinental ballistic missiles are produced. And over the years of the war, China has supplied Russia with such equipment worth billions of dollars. Beyond machine tools, China has also been providing microchips, electronic boards, ball bearings, radar and electronic warfare crystals, like the dilithium crystals of the USS Enterprise, measuring instruments, and drone components. These are critical elements for precision weapons, aviation, and unmanned systems. Experts say that without Chinese supplies, Russia's military-industrial complex, oh god, here comes all the people, the military-industrial complex would not be able to sustain the current pace of the war. So it does appear that the Chinese are helping them out to some extent. We also were able to hear that the Russians have announced, while they're running out of money, that they are going to be putting $1.6 billion into the budget for official propaganda in 2026. That is a huge increase. Sounds like they're having to make a whole lot of people try and buy their shit a lot more, because it's getting less and less believable every year. So now their propaganda budget is about the same amount of money that I think the U.S. government gives to Amtrak every year to run a nationwide rail service. And they're just putting that into AI-generated slop that they're going to slap around the internet, and a couple of bots who go, fake news, so let's get us Coke, or something like that over and over until you get banned. So that's a lot of money for those sorts of deals right there. But we are going to be moving on out of Moscow and on into the war in Ukraine, because we do have a lot of news coming out of there. But we do have a couple of things in Voronezh and Crimea to get to before that. But before we get to that, a lot of people are wondering, why did that major fire break out at that Kaluga Volkswagen car factory? And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? What are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so now that we're seeing major fires, not just at the former Volkswagen factory, which was a huge fire today, but there are also many other fires that have been breaking out over the past month in a very, very increasing basis, more so than usual. And what is going on with this? 55% said it's probably Ukrainian saboteurs behind the lines causing these fires, while 31% said it could be Russian partisans, and 4% said it's probably United States intel saboteurs, or, agents on the ground. So I am starting to think that the United States might have people on the ground. I know that's going to sound kind of wild, and it looks like only 4% of the people on the poll believe that, but the U.S. does have people inside of Russia. That's something that's not well known, but I'm sure the U.S. has people inside of Russia, and they could be doing this. That's my guess. So it's probably saboteurs. It's happening way too often for it to not be sabotage, and the Ukrainians could be doing it, but I have a feeling they might be having some help at this point, because this is becoming so frequent. I'm not even sure if the Ukrainians could pull this off at this rate. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I think it is the Ukrainians. I would have to be with 56%, because I mean, come on, the Americans burning down a Volkswagen factory in Kaluga? I mean, come on here. What are we talking about? Some sort of a hanky-panky operation? No, no. I'm just playing with you. It's a possibility, but I just feel like it's a higher likelihood that the Ukrainians have a very large sabotage ring going on. Because, I mean, it was the Ukrainians and the Ukrainians alone that did Operation Spiderweb, which knocked out a third of Russia's strategic bomber forces. So who's to say that the partisans don't just have an extremely well-fleshed-out network at this point that are able to conduct a humongous amount of attacks like this across all of Russia?
Maybe so, possibly. I see some people really doubting it. I knew people were going to doubt it because people tend not to believe stuff like that. But I mean, it's a known fact. I mean, we definitely have people on the ground in Russia as spies and agents and things like that. That's a certainty. Now, whether or not they'll commit sabotage on behalf of the United States, that's another question. But the people didn't believe that the U.S. was helping Ukraine target the Russian shadow fleet, and we found that out about two or 3 weeks ago. That the CIA has been giving Ukraine all kinds of intelligence to target those ships with these sea babies in the Black Sea. So that was unexpected, and people did not believe that before that information came out. And it turned out that even though the U.S. is publicly not really acting like they're supporting Ukraine a whole bunch, they actually are doing stuff behind the scenes in an intel capacity to help out quite a bit. So we do know that Russia's been doing a hybrid warfare campaign against Europe for a long time. They've been starting fires. They've been setting substations on fire, hitting factories left and right. The FSB is doing that all across Europe. And I would not be surprised the USA finally decided to respond to it by activating our own agents inside of Russia to level the playing field a bit. It could be a covert hybrid war of our own against Russia.
I would have to say that those sleeper agents that we just heard about a little while ago, Matthew, I bet you they've been a great help because the U.S. walks up to them and they're like, "Здравствуйте," the blah, blah, blah. And then the American goes, hot dog, hamburger, Big Mac, Whopper. And then they go, "Oh, must burn down substation." And then they go outside with a Molotov or something.
That's such a crazy thing. Like, also, if you're not sure what we're referring to, it came out the other day, another bombshell report that the USA actually still uses sleeper agents, which I thought that practice had been abolished. I didn't think it was still in use, but it came out that the U.S. still has sleeper agents, just like Russia has. Russia is famous for having sleepers inside the United States, people that look like normal Americans, but the Russians can send one signal to them through some message or another, and it activates that agent to then become a saboteur, a spy, or whatever their intended purpose was. It activates them to go to their operations. The U.S. has that too, that we found out recently, which was to my surprise. I didn't know we still used that or even used it at all. So it could be maybe some sleepers have been activated inside of Russia, just like they do to us.
Man, bro, there's the one foamer, man, like the rail fan that they activate. They're like, AC-44 C6M, EMD-F7, EMD-ST-78, and he's like, must go to Kremlin with Polaroid. It's like, must take pictures of Kremlin. It's like, bro, it's like,
you gotta watch out, man. You never know where these sleepers are gonna be at. They could be working at McDonald's. They could be working at the railroad. They could be working at I don't know, like 7-Eleven. You never can tell where they're at. They'd be working anywhere. They blend in exceptionally well, and the Russians have perfected that. The Russians are experts at sleeper agents. Those people will live and have normal families here in the United States. You won't have a damn clue that you're living down the street from a Russian sleeper. They will speak English perfectly fluently. They'll have a normal job. They'll have a normal family. Their kids will be friends with your kids, and they'll be a Russian sleeper the whole time, and you'll never know it until the last second. And then maybe one day you might see them being arrested if they get caught, but a lot of them never get caught.
Yeah, a lot of them never do. It's actually a little bit concerning, folks, because your best friend might be a Russian sleeper, and they probably don't even know it either. You never know. I mean, do they? Have you asked them? Have you made sure? Have you checked?
This is like perfect fuel for schizos.
Man, wait a minute. Who's that? Senator McCarthy in the Congress just said that there's communists in the United States, and he has a list of them? Oh, no. Oh, no. It's like, man, it's the 1950s
We must
again.
find and punish.
Right here, I have a list of names of communists that are involved in Hollywood and the U.S. government. We have 130 names right here. And once we find these 80 people, we're going to hold them accountable. Yes, that's right, all 50 of them. Once we gather up all 36 of these people, we are going to hold them to the full extent of the law. Now, we don't know where these 24 people are right now, but we do have their names, and damn it, when we find those 12 people, we are going to get them. And we better pray to God that one guy that we know is a communist, he better shows up, because there will be hell to pay. I tell you that. anyways, moving on from that. Yeah, man, that kind of sounds a little bit familiar, honestly, to something else that has to do with an island somewhere. But anyways, it is time for us to move on into the rest of our news before our overlords zap the electric collars that we wear for getting offhand and saying things that we shouldn't. It's like,
Man, no diddy.
no, not like that. What the hell? Like, it's like, bruh, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah, bro. I mean, like, you know, like from the
talking about
from like the dystopian movies. Haven't you ever watched them where they have like a bomb or like a shock collar?
Are you sure that was a dystopian movie or was that something else?
Hey, yo, like what the hell?
What
like,
was you watching?
Bro, it was a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and it was like a dystopian world where they're like all on like a construction site or something, and if they tried to leave the zone, they would get electrocuted as a warning, and then it would blow up like on their neck if they ran out of the zone, and then they all made a break for it and everything. It was some movie like that. But I don't know what the hell you're talking about, bro. I mean, you talking about that freaky people? Like it's like. It's like, oh, it's like, whoa. But anyways, moving on from that and on down into the Vornish area, we did get to see that an oil storage depot was hit.
Вот это, видишь, просвет неба.
Look at that smoke, that toxic smoke clear.
Это вот дым такой идет он оттуда.
That's the end of that clip. We also get to see the oil storage depot right here. It was cooked. And moving on from that, and on down from the Vornish area, and on down into Crimea, and everyone knows the movie I'm talking about. It's Running Man. There we have it. That was the movie, man. That wasn't no freaky out. I was literally referencing a movie. I was like, man, bruh. I like the Crawling Man a little bit more. I like
the Walking Man.
But beyond that, we did get to see this montage of Russian aircraft that were hit by Ukrainian forces in Crimea. This did not happen today. This is a compilation of attacks that happened over the past few weeks, especially in the December month of 2025, and the footage was released finally today. Oh, an Su-24. And an Su-30 assembly.
Look at that.
Oh, look. It's another Su-30 SM. Oh, and the MiG-31K. Well, now that's a little exquisite.
Man, isn't it crazy just seeing the Russians casually lose like $40 million in one of these hits? Like every hit you're looking at is like 40 million, 50 million, 40 million, 50 million.
Man, they're losing more value in the Russian Air Force than silver just lost in market cap last night.
Excuse me. Silver is gaining value. Actually, it's not losing it.
I'm sorry. I thought last night it lost value.
No, it's gaining. It's having a bull run, kind of like that gold. Oh. Gold, silver, and gold.
Silver and gold. Silver and gold. Silver and gold. Use my discount deal to get silver and gold.
Hey, now. Hey.
Two on the nose? I'll roll it back a little. But anyways, but you see them still slamming these Russian aircraft. Oh, look, it's an Antonov 26. Vertical stabilizer was blown off from another drone. Oh my god, it's an Mi-26!
Damn.
Yo, that's the biggest helicopter in the world, by the way, folks. The biggest one ever produced in serial numbers. Unbelievable. They never said that they hit one of these before, but apparently a second one? This is just... This is just exorbitant. The excess. Oh, an Mi-28. Look, those are the ones the Iranians got. Didn't really do them any good, and Russia did it. And an Mi-17.
Honestly, I will admit, I hate to see like the big ones, like, you know, like it's kind of like the Miria, you know, the huge Antonov plane. I kind of hate to see like the big ones getting hit because I don't think they produce those anymore, do they?
Yet. They don't.
Ah, damn. Yeah, aviation history down the toilet. But it's got to happen, though. It's got to happen.
But it's okay, though. There are a lot of Mi-26s. Like, if all the ones in Russia were destroyed, it is okay because there are others outside of Russia. I'll show you the map of the operators here. Actually, there's a lot of them.
Oh, wow. Everybody's got some.
Even the Cambodians operate them. I mean, if the Cambodians can operate them, that's not that big of a loss. You know, it could be worse. It could be worse. It could be, you know, something really rare, like, say, an A-50 Barrier or something like that. You know, those get obliterated often. But moving us on up into the front lines, folks, it's time for us to get to the real news from the front. Moving us on down into the location unknowns, we had a decent amount of them today. First, we were able to see these Ukrainians riding around in their van, literally watching the drone that's trying to hunt them down on the screen. There's the drone view right there, and they're trying to hunt down this van that they're in right now. And the Ukrainians like, what the F is this? They just realized it's starting to follow them.
That's clever.
And we see that they've recognized it as an FPV that's trying to follow them. Oh, when they lost the signal? So they're all shocked that it actually intercepted it. And now they've turned on the electronic warfare system, which might have just fried the drone. Oh, it did! Oh my god, it jammed the drone.
Wow.
Like, so they watched the drone folks coming in on this screen, and it was literally their car, and the guy in the car was like, oh my god, that's our car! And then he turned on the electronic warfare system, which fried the drone, and it slammed down just off to the left of the road and blew up outside. That's what they just heard.
Wow, that's impressive, actually. I thought the Russians were using pretty much all fiber optic drones at this point, though. That's kind of weird. They're still using a wireless one with this attack.
Fiber optics are generally used for longer range strikes on stationary targets, but the wireless drones are the ones used for high-speed moving targets, because the fiber optics cannot move too quickly, lest they might break their wire and completely lose the connection, so they generally have to move somewhat slowly. But the wireless ones are the ones that are able to chase down moving cars. So this guy literally, he said, "Блядь, it's automobile," and then he turned on the EW system and literally killed it. Right? He said, "Huh, that's funny." Flicked the light switch, and then the drone crashed outside. He's like, "Damn, that's crazy."
At least the Ukrainian EW actually works, unlike the Russians. They flip theirs on and nothing happens.
Dude, honestly, that's insane right here. This is crazy to watch.
Сука, уебала за нами. Та помогти може там трусу. Сука, підарша.
А ми броніки сняли, сука.
Це пиздец, пацани. Що нахуй случилось тут?
Вона збоку впала, усе. Вона впала в городи.
Вона в город впала.
Не їдь
Вона не
туди.
попала по машині.
Город,
Don't go there.
в город упала.
Прикинь, перший раз бачу, що оце я засняв, єбануться можна. Прикинь, підарша.
Сраку залетіло.
Хорошо, що я детектор не виключив. Оце був би пиздец. Короче, типи, блядь.
Everyone in the car is like legitimately in shock that that all just happened, and then they flicked the switch and killed the drone right outside of the car.
Оцей тип, блядь, реально нас спас. А я крутанувся вправо-ліво. Ти бачив?
Ти побачив?
Пиздец, типи, що сьогодні було, блядь, я їбанувся можна. Єлі вискочили з одного міста, блядь, і чуть не в'їбали нас тут.
That's honestly insane. I mean, that was actually crazy. We also got to see this Mad Max-like creation here out of a Kazakh armored car. And I'm not going to lie, that actually is pretty cool looking.
That thing's mega. That's huge.
Yeah, that thing is pretty cool looking, honestly. Then we also got to see this MiG-29 airstrike that was conducted with the MiG-29 MU-1. In this clip right here, we see the MiG-29 roaring right over, and then dropping its hammers on target in this part of the clip right here. Like, the bush. The bullshit, the блядь. Like, man. За родины.
Oh, they got him. They got him. They were hiding out, and it didn't work.
They see me hiding. They hating. Trying to drop hammers on my head and put me on the... But anyways...
That's nothing personal. It's just business.
It's just business, that's all. Also, we got to see this Rudnik. We finally have a Russian Rudnik again. And it was one hell of a treat. It's these devil.
The devil's hit hard times. He's driving a janky jalopy.
I'm driving my shitbag Civic with this NSV with the giant soda can on the front of the barrel, blade.
What was the hell was the point of stripping out all the insulation and all the door panels and everything? I mean, it's not like they're trying to save weight to race.
It's for the extra 0.5 mile per hour, blade. It's all for speed, blade. This looks like an NSV. I don't see any... They made a ghetto turret for it. That like, my God.
Ghetto turret.
Look, an old Soviet ghetto turret. It's like, wow, really amazing. I'm not gonna lie, that's actually kind of impressive that they made it out of scraps. Like, I'm just gonna kind of be a little bit honest on that one.
Перевод в положение зенитного пулемета. Ослабляются фиксаторы на рычажном механизме.
Apparently, it was built with the guy with the messed up face.
Oh, what? What? I'm not gonna lie, this is actually kind of impressive for this to be a ghetto turret. I mean, this is actually pretty interesting.
Don't get too hyped. It'll only last about a couple of days.
And 30 minutes, maybe.
All this work will be for nothing.
Oh, wait a minute, it got stuck right there, look.
It jumped off the rails. it hit a notch. They didn't weld it right or something. It hit the little bad weld.
Bruh, the Russians are out here. We made the ghetto turret with a suppressor on it for no reason. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians, oh my god, that's our car! Flick. And then the drone immediately crashes outside. It's like, honestly, I think the Ukrainians kind of got the Russians beat on anti-drone warfare for now. And it kind of shows in the casualty reports. Because over the past 24 hours, we've been able to hear from Miss Disa giving the records that 2 Bobcats have been
Bobcats. Man, two in a day. That's crazy work. It's been a minute since I've seen 2 in a day. Not with two they can't. But tell us more.
Matthew, how do you say the number 2 in Russian?
I call that dos.
That's dva. D-V-A.
Yeah.
Dva.
That's very nice that they got 2 of them.
Это хорошо. But anyways, moving on from that, the casualty report is as follows. Error submarine still 2 since the 16th of December of last year. 690, not 890 troops, is the lowest loss report since the 3rd of January of 2024, bringing the 7-day average down 976. 1,012 drones is the 4th highest daily loss. And over the course of the past 24 hours, we have been able to confirm that the Russian Federation has lost 690 soldiers wounded and killed, along with 4 APCs, 77 supply trucks, 22 artillery pieces, 1,012 drones, 1 naval arrest, and 2 Bobcat skid steers. It's not the largest day of losses that we've seen for a while, but it is still pretty decent. Moving us on down and into the area behind the lines in Kursk, we did get to see this Ukrainian drone absolutely busting on through the Donetsk area. Take a look. At the drone, please.
Sounds like the 4th of July out here.
Kind of. Oh,
that does not sound like the 4th.
It kind of does, actually. Fact check, it does. But anyways, moving on from that.
I've never heard nothing blowing up on the 4th quite like that. That sounded like a disaster.
You've never heard of a mortar firework before? You know, when they blow up in the air?
Yeah, but not like big tonnage like that. It's not malevolent.
What's benevolent me? But anyway, he made me look bad, and then they released the unedited version of that, and then it made him look even worse. But anyway, we also got to see the Rossiyski forces being hit near to the area of Myrnhrad. Take a look. Oh, a little bit of music there. Oh, look at Cerberus.
They got the 3 dogs. 3 dogs.
Oh, there's some Russians trying to make a run for it. They ain't making a run for it. Oh, here's the Buhanka. They ain't Buhankin. Buhanka honka. Oh, here comes another one. Huapeng. Oh, here comes another one.
Huapeng. Is that the defense minister of China?
That might be. That might
be.
Man,
what's he doing out here on the battlefield?
Man, he's just out there near Zhang Yuzha, you know what I mean? Like, and Huapeng and all that, you know? But anyway, so you also got to see them getting hit by the 68 Diegas, we all know, because they got that bear out here with the axe, and they axing some Russians questions.
You know, it is interesting though. If Xi Jinping really wanted to send like some of his guys out to get basically get them out of China, so that way they can't overthrow them, he could say, "Look, guys, we want you to go to Russia to observe the military movements and learn from it." And, they go to the front, obviously the front's dangerous. It might come to that. Xi might do that. I don't think he might in China, though, would be dumb enough to actually want to go along with that.
I don't think so. I think they'd all know that that's kind of like a death assignment at that point. Oh.
Also, I think they might be worried too that that Putin might bring him into the fold and get some information.
That's also true. Like, that's probably the bigger risk out of it all. The FSB would be trying to recruit them. We could give you a better life here in this shithole. Like, it's like, oh, really?
You see what we did for Assad? We did a number on him. We gave him a top tier apartment at the top. He sits there and plays video games all day. I know that's what you want to do. It's been a lifelong ambition of the Chinese generals to play video games in a penthouse all day.
And I heard that he plays Burnout Revenge on the PS2. Would you like to do that as well? It's like, man, but we can also see the 5th Brigade hitting some Russians near Kotlini. Oh, a little burn off there. Oh, a little burn off. Well, they're about to have to teach them. Boom.
I think out of all the countries out there that provides like, the quote unquote better life for defectors and spies and things like that, it's probably Russia. Like they provide the crappiest deals, like the crappiest. Oh, look at this like glowing truck.
This is an electronic warfare vehicle. The Ukrainians are about to blow it up. There it is. It's the Tirada 2S. They're about to blow it to pieces. It doesn't seem like it did the electronic warfare part really good, because this electronically operated drone got right on top of it and blew it to smithereens. Man. I mean, the Russians, they don't really have working air defense or working electronic warfare units. Not really good, you know?
Yeah, really. I bet these things cost a bit. I was trying to pull up the cost of it real quick. About $10 million or so.
Damn.
So another 10 million. I mean, they're losing millions. Like it's like, just like, a little bit of change on the side or something. That's a lot of money for Russia.
Yeah, I'd have to say so. Also, we have someone in here, Corned Beef Ruben the Longword said, Ukrainians are basically fascist Russians, leave them to it. I think you're confused. I think you're confused, buddy. Oh, he's gone. There we go. He's gone now.
Oh, he left. He left. He got a bad time. Oh.
Meanwhile, up at Stepney here, so we got to see them popping the Russians with some little grenade launches here. Oh, they got that rock music playing, and they're about to rock them good up in that apartment. There we go. I mean, that's how you do it. People who say the Ukrainians are fascist, apparently they've never really observed the Russians a lot. I gotta say, folks, the Russians really have done a number since the collapse of the Soviet Union in America. They got a lot of people thinking that the Russians are like these mystical, cool people. It's like, do y'all know what the Russians really live like? They live in these crappy little apartments from like the 1950s that were only supposed to last 20 years. All of them live in basically what's the equivalent of a hellhole. The roads aren't paved. If you have any gripe against the U.S. government, it's like a factor of 50 in Russia. Corrupt politicians? Oh, you bet. No paved roads? There's literally no pavement on the road. They're literally dirt. No public transportation? Well, if there's any, it hardly works and it's very unreliable, and it's also very questionable and dangerous. No worker safety? Oh, you bet. Wealth disparity between the upper classes and the lower class? I mean, guaranteed. I mean, that's extreme in Russia. It's like literally everything that people complain about America, that is Russia, but 50 times worse in every single way.
Man, I'll tell you what, and also no freedom of speech at all. Like you say something that Putin doesn't like, and all of a sudden you have 5 guys, not the burgers and fries, showing up to your house, and they're all of a sudden they're tenderizing you like a filet mignon in your own living room, getting tenderized like a steak, simply for speaking your mind. That's how it works. I mean, look at this unfortunate case. Look what happened to Navalny. He went to prison, and unfortunately, the dude apparently got murdered in prison, based on the sounds of it.
Yeah, and I mean, God forbid if the FSB comes in and then they say, bring in the midget, you're in trouble. Like, you're in real trouble. Like, believe me, if you don't know what I'm referencing right there, believe me. But anyways, moving on from that and into Kyiv, we were able to get the speech from the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. And so eventually we will get the speech up on there for all of y'all. Blessed be. It is speech time. And so, without further ado, here's the speech. Speech!
Бажаю здоров'я. Коротко про сьогодні. В усіх регіонах, де є для цього потреба, залучені ремонтні бригади та необхідні сили для відновлення. Найбільш складна ситуація зараз в Києві, передусім з опаленням. Є також значні проблеми з електрикою. Для Києва залучені бригади з багатьох наших регіонів, фактично з усієї країни, в тому числі прифронтові регіони, готові допомагати. Я хочу подякувати за допомогу також Укрзалізниці, іншим державним компаніям, всій приватній сфері, хто підтримує людей. МВС України забезпечує гаряче харчування в районах в Києві, де це необхідно. Тільки за минулу добу 6200 людей в Києві. На Київщині 22 тисячі людей отримали гаряче харчування. Готові збільшувати масштаб такої допомоги, якщо це буде потрібно. Я очікую звіти по всіх тих дорученнях на роботу з партнерами, які були. Шукати та купувати обладнання треба було ще до цієї зими. Міська влада в Києві повинна діяти значно швидше зараз, щоб хоча б в лютому було людям легше. Тим більше, що всі в уряді готові допомагати. Регулярні доповіді по ситуації в Чернігові, на Сумщині, Дніпровщина. У Кривому протягом дня відновлювали постачання тепла. На сьогоднішній ранок не було опалення більш ніж у 200 будинків після російського удару. Харківщина, Одещина, Запоріжжя. Я хочу подякувати кожному, хто працює, щоб люди були з теплом і світлом. Значні відключення також в Полтавській області, також на Кіровоградщині, на Миколаївщині, Вінницькій та Чернівецькій областях. Говорив з президентом Франції. Еммануель відзначив виклики, які є. Ми говорили про допомогу Україні, якої ми зараз потребуємо найбільше. Розраховуємо на підтримку Європи. Важливо, щоб лідери та держави не мовчали про те, що відбувається. Не мовчали про те, що росіяни все одно намагаються завдати українцям якнайбільше болю, не зважаючи на жодну дипломатію. Знаємо і про те, що росіяни готуються до нового удару. Розвідка дає інформацію щодо цього. Треба, щоб зараз Америка, зараз Європа, зараз всі партнери розуміли, як це дискредитує дипломатичні розмови. Кожен з російських ударів. Сьогодні росіяни на Київщині вбили жінку та чоловіка. Просто люди були у своїй квартирі. Мої співчуття рідним та близьким. Дитину 4 роки вдалося врятувати. Я хочу подякувати Мар'яну Кушніру, журналісту Радіо Свобода, воєнкору, який мужньо діяв, врятував цю дівчинку. Багато залежить саме від того, що наші люди не втрачають мужності. Напередодні росіяни ударили по звичайному цивільному потягу. Дронами вдарили. Були загиблі, були поранені. В потязі їхав український сержант, воїн 93-ї окремої механізованої бригади. Владислав Рожковський, позивний Омар. Не розгубився. І все, що міг, робив заради того, щоб допомогти іншим. Я хочу подякувати тобі, Владиславе. Дякую всім, хто робить зараз все можливе і неможливе, щоб врятувати якнайбільше людей, якнайбільше життів. Говорили сьогодні з Татою Кеплер, українською волонтеркою, яка багато допомогла в розвитку нашої тактичної медицини та в порятунку наших воїнів. Українські хірурги, українські лікарі роблять дивовижні операції, рятуючи життя в умовах війни. Це досвід, який треба масштабувати і який треба підтримати, але не словами, а рішеннями, розвитком наших державних інституцій. Ми домовилися, що Тата разом з діючими військовими медиками дадуть пропозиції, як зробити більш сильну підготовку військових саме з точки зору медицини, поранень, військових травм, уміння допомогти побратиму кращої та більш швидкої евакуації. Як зробити український такмед ще сильніше. Є що зробити і є досвід, який треба поширити. Дякую всім, хто саме цим займається. Була доповідь генерал-майора Хмари, передусім про бойові операції Служби безпеки України, те, що стосується нашого фронту, зокрема дій Альфи, і те, що служба робить цілком справедливо на території агресора, у відповідь на всі удари, у відповідь на все російське зло, яке прийшло на нашу землю. Пишаюся нашими спецпризначенцями. Також говорили про контроль за всіма процесами у сфері військового виробництва. Максимальна чіткість має бути, і все, що потрібно Україні, має вироблятись саме так, як потрібно Україні, без будь-яких шансів на російські диверсії чи будь-яких внутрішнього бруду, корупції і тому подібного. Це багато в чому відповідальність Служби безпеки України, щоб була реальна чистота процесів. Ще одне. Коли є стільки дипломатичних зусиль, щоб завершити цю війну, коли і американці говорять з росіянами, і європейці намагаються. Треба, щоб вся ця дипломатія мала реальну вагу для людей і реальне значення в ситуації зараз. Коли російські удари продовжуються, коли штурми тривають, людям складно відчувати, що дипломатія конструктивна і може дати результат. Треба думати усім, хто справді хоче миру, як забезпечити, щоб не до нових масованих атак росіяни готувалися, а до закінчення війни. У світу є сила, щоб це забезпечити. Треба тільки користуватись цією силою заради миру, безумовно. Дякую всім, хто сприймає ситуацію саме так. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
And with that, as the end of the speech from the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, here on this day of 1,436 of the news from around the world. It's time for us to move on to the second segment of the stream, folks, to where we talk to each and every single one of y'all, or hopefully we get to as many of y'all as we can. And it's going to be an absolute blast. And I saw someone say something to me in the live chat earlier, and I had to go and check it and see if I was correct. And someone said that per percentage of miles of road, the Russian Federation actually has more paved roads by percentage of their total road network than the United States. And interestingly enough, that apparently, at least according to the Russians, would be correct, because according to the Russians, 71% of their total road network is paved, while only 65% of America's road network is paved. But I do have to point out that the United States does have about 6 times the roadworks of the Russian Federation. So,
yeah, but also we maintain ours though. Like, I mean, how long ago did they pave the roads? Like back in the 1800s?
Well, let's go find out. Let's go find out.
I mean, technically they could have paved everything since the beginning of time. I'm not buying that.
So let's see if we can drop down on a street view somewhere, like, oh, right here. Oh, I mean,
Maybe pick their one nice road. What are you doing here?
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, I mean, what do you know? Let's see here. What about, let's see, how about this road right here? Oh, yeah, here we go.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Look,
Here we go.
That's technically paved, but I mean, if we're being honest here, this is not fit for a dog to walk on.
Man, this is that road when you drop down on it, you hear that sound thing that goes, blah, blah. Bro, it's like, bro, I mean, this is
like backwoods Alabama style roads.
This is worse. I mean, like, even backwood Alabama roads weren't this bad most of the time. I mean, this is basically abandoned. One thing I will say though is that they do come back and
Louisiana roads.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. Dude, but they do come back and repaint the lines on the roads. Like, they actually do that apparently regularly. But the tarmac though, probably been paved about 30 years ago, back at the collapse of the Soviet Union, probably.
Also, what pull up the definition of paved. What is the definition of paved?
Definition of a paved road.
I think I'll just call a loophole here. Let's see if it's true.
A road covered with a durable hard surface like asphalt, concrete, or even cobblestone, designed to provide a smooth, firm path for vehicles and pedestrians.
So technically, if you compacted dirt like that, like a dirt path, would that technically be paved?
No, that would be a packed dirt road.
What about if you put like the little rocks, the little pebbles? Like, isn't that cobble? Like, couldn't that be considered cobble?
I mean, you could try and stretch it to being that. Let's drop down on another road. What about one up here near Borovici? Let's take a look at this road here. This is the only road through the area, mind you all. Ooh!
Oh yeah,
Blah!
It's paved, buddy. It was paved back when Paul Revere warned them about the British.
Bruh, the Russians were going down this street going, the Bolsheviks are coming. Like, the Bolsheviks are coming. Bruh.
I think what's his name? What's the guy's name? The philosopher, the weird guy that allegedly all the women wanted to sleep with and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about? Rasputin. Yeah, this is like, but Rasputin probably walked down this road back in the day.
Let's drop down in Konchansky-Sorovodsky. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's an aerial view. Those don't look paved to me. Like, that don't look paved either. These all look like packed dirt roads. I think the Russians might be lying about how things are out here in the...
Russians lying? You don't say.
I think the Russians might be lying out here in the old motherland. Let's see about... Oh!
Oh, yeah. Look at that patchwork. Man, the patchwork is so much newer than the road, it really is out of place bad.
You know, this looks like someone's trying to, like, mend an old Roman road from, like, 2,000 years ago out here. I mean, these are pretty bad. Now, let's compare that to an American road in a normal part of the country. So we'll go with the vast majority where people live, which will be east of the Mississippi. Matthew, pick a state, and then we're going to narrow it down from there.
Are we hoping to find a good road, or are we looking for any road?
Any road, like just random sample.
Put us in Louisiana, Baton Rouge.
Oh, we're going for a tough one. Like, we're going for
Yes, I'm stacking the cards against us.
All right, we'll drop down on this street in this neighborhood. This is kind of getting there.
Oh, great heavens.
Oh, great heavens. I mean, actually, this is...
It's getting better.
Yeah, it's getting better. Okay, we'll drop down on another part of Baton Rouge. How about up here near White Plains? We'll drop it down up here on this road. I mean, honestly, these are...
there we go. There we go.
These are like a market improvement. And this is probably the worst that they get. Now, we could also go to West Virginia, and I think that we probably see similar road quality here to what you might find in Russia. Nope, actually, I'm wrong. This is way better.
Wow. They have lines.
Bruh, they paved the streets and they marked the lines. Oh my god. Even in West Virginia, which is like one of the poorest states in the United States. Now let's go to a wealthy state like New York. Let's pick a
New York's wealthy.
Yeah, New York's a wealthy state, like, compared to others. See,
Well,
this is what I mean.
Look at that corn on the cob.
Bruh. You wouldn't see that in Russia. Like, bruh, you wouldn't see that.
No.
Bruh, Khrushchev and his obsession with corn, and it never worked out. But this is a well-paved road. How about another one in another wealthy state? Like, pick a wealthy state on the East Coast, Matthew.
New Hampshire.
Ooh, bruh, they got that crack money. Let's see.
Crack money?
Yeah, you know, they have, like, a big thing up there with, like, some sort of hard drugs. I don't know what it is. But anyways, I mean, look at this. This is what a paved road is, folks. This is what truly maintained paved roads look like versus Russian paved roads, which are only paved technically, and that was like 50 years ago, maybe. But let's see. Let's drop down into Tver Oblast to this road right here.
Oh, you should have dropped it down to Connecticut. That would probably been you should have dropped it down to Connecticut.
Yes, Connecticut. We should have done that. Where?
There we go.
Hatford?
Hartford, yeah, drop it down outside of the Hartford.
Or should we drop it down in Norwich?
Either one, I guess.
I will drop it down in Hartford. Why not? Let's drop it down in Hartford. Yeah, this isn't too bad.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Hell, this is way better than Russia. I mean, pick a farm road in Iowa. Sure thing, old warrior. We'll pick one in Iowa. I already know what that's going to be. It's mostly going to be dirt roads because the government isn't going to put out the money to pave a road that's used only by farmers because it's a very small amount of traffic. But we will pick one. Well. What do we have here? It's a paved road. But
you know, there is one difference, though. Unfortunately, there is one difference here. The United States does not have free healthcare, and Russia has free healthcare. Now, whether or not you'd actually want to redeem the free healthcare in Russia is another question. But they do have that, I think.
Well, I mean, you know, like, technically, they do have free healthcare. But, I mean, if I showed up to the doctor's office and saw that and that was my free healthcare, I really wouldn't want it. You know what I mean?
What's wrong with him?
He just looks... He
looks like he would do the job right. He looks like he has a thing for cutting.
I just don't really trust him, though. Like, I mean, the lighting and everything. It looks like Captain Kirk at a climactic point of an episode in Star Trek, the original series. I just don't really trust it, you know? But outside of that, funnily enough, folks, according to France, Germany, the UK, and Italy, and Spain, 100% of their road networks are paved. Not a single mile of them are unpaved, which is very interesting to me, because I wonder if that would stand true if we drop down on Street View somewhere in Spain. Oh my god, there's a lot of roads in Spain. Okay, we gotta...
Dang, the whole Spain is full of roads. The whole thing's roads.
Bro, they said, how many roads do you want? They said, every acre. It's like, bro, it's like, damn. Alright, let's try to figure out. So we'll drop down on this one. You see, this is what I don't really count as paved, you know? This is almost like dirt at this point.
This is really out there.
I mean, honestly, man, this landscape it kind of reminds me of the landscape near Tooele, almost.
No, not really. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
say I wouldn't say that. This is more like
yeah,
plains.
yeah, yeah. Let's drop down over here. You see, these just don't really count as paved, in my opinion.
They have those ugly windmills. Those things are chopping down all the eagles. It's like an eagle trap. They fly into the windmills, and the eagles go squaw, and all of a sudden it gets clapped by the blades. It's a real shame what's happening to those bald eagles.
We need those clapped out, boosted eagles that are getting hit by the wind farms.
Some are telling me that they flew into the wind farm and they had hair before they went in, and then they came out bald.
Now, let's find out if France actually has real paved roads. Is it hype, or are they really paved? I feel like France is actually going to have really paved roads. Yeah.
What the? Was that a skating park ramp? What is that? Oh, that's a house.
This is a house.
Damn, man, this house is built like a bunker. What the?
Bruh, some French guy in like the 19th century said, "Oh, I have to protect from the Germans." Like, and he said, "Build me a castle wall on the first floor." It's like, damn, bro. But I mean, these are not technically paved to a U.S. Department of Transportation standard, because we actually have a standard lane width, and because a lot of roadways in most European countries, like the Western European ones, were actually built not to DOT standard widths, which are for a car and a little bit of leeway on both sides, and they were basically built to minimum carriage width and then paved later. They're not like, it's a lot easier to pave a road with this sort of a profile here because it hardly fits a car versus, say, an American road like I could drop y'all down on in Salt Lake City. Like one of these. Let me show you all like a standard road in Salt Lake City. Like, well, actually, this is like a neighborhood street, like a thoroughfare like this. Like, it takes a lot more money and a lot more asphalt and a lot more time to maintain roadworks of this sort of a size and scale. So I would say, honestly, I think that America kind of has most countries beat on the roadways because we're a very car-centric country, and so pretty much all of our government funding goes to that.
China's got the roads down. Sorry, but China did beat us with the roads.
Oh yeah, with the tofu drag and the collapsing bridges.
They may only last for 10 years, but the roads. I mean, go drop us down in China somewhere. Let's take a look at their little roads if we can even see them.
Oh yes, the road to Wuhan, a famous road.
The road to the wet market. I see.
I don't know about they got us beat on the roads, my boy. I don't know.
Don't drop us down in Wuhan, man. I mean, Wuhan's. I mean, I don't know about. Let's see some more.
This is the only road they allow us to have street view on in all of China. Is this one?
Wow, I think I might have fallen for Chinese propaganda on this. This is not up to par.
Yeah, dude. This has that like that shrill Chinese music. You know the one I'm talking about, where it goes. You know, it kind of has that deal going on it, and it's tofu drag. It doesn't meet my standards. Like, it doesn't meet my standards.
I think China's government lied to me.
Man, you don't say. Like, man, get in line, buddy. Like, they've lied to us all. But look, man, literally, that's the only road in like the whole of Southeast China I could get us on was the road to Wuhan. No joke.
What about that one up there near Mongolia, meeting up with the border?
That is in Mongolia, actually. That's the street.
Let's see what the border is. Like, go to the very edge of that, like right up to China, see what it looks like.
Probably looks. Huh, I mean, that's not actually.
Oh, damn, Mongolia's got it going, actually, compared to China.
I forgot they have the Cyrillic alphabet around here. That's interesting. That's really weird to me. Let's see here. Isn't that so weird how the Mongolians have a Cyrillic alphabet? Like, considering they're in the middle of Asia.
It feels Russian.
Yeah. Oh my God! It's a UAC 469.
I think this is Russian. I mean, it might be an enclave. The Russians are here. They're trying to get to China.
They are here. Let's go to the very furthest extent that we can get to before we get to the Chinese border. Ooh.
This is the desert.
I was not really sure.
What's
I
that little
thought it
shack
might
over
be a
there?
jungle. It looks like a temple.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna lie though. China don't really have a lot with that Google Street View transparency. That's because it would show you the propagandist lying if they allowed Street View to go everywhere in the country. And then if you made it out to Western China, you'd be like, "Hey, what's up with those large compounds?" And then the lid would get blown, and they don't want that happening. But let's see, another street. I want to find y'all one that's normal because we could go to Shenzhen, and it's going to look good. Like, I can tell you that already because it's a propaganda city.
Oh, yes.
But
I love Shenzhen. The electronics. I love it.
you know what, we'll go down to Shenzhen. They only have one road available, though, in Shenzhen.
Hong Kong is fully visible. You can see everything in Hong Kong.
that SAR differential here really does show on the Google Street View deal in between the liberties given. But this, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, dude, like, Shenzhen don't even really look that good. I mean, look at those little commie blocks in the background.
Man, it's all about the manufacturing. It's Shenzhen. Isn't Shenzhen the electronics area, like where they do the electronics and stuff?
Yeah, this is down in the Guangdong region, which is like one of the most economically like prosperous of China. So this is about as good as China gets actually in terms of wealth for most of the country. It would be down here. And I'm not gonna lie, this highway, man, looks a lot like any average U.S. highway. I'm just gonna be completely frank. I mean, honestly, it looks like a middle of the road kind of a highway. It's not even like an exceptionally good one or a bad one.
It kind of does. It kind of does. Honestly, a question for the audience: Do y'all prefer these paved roads right here, like asphalt, or do y'all prefer the concrete roads? I think between the two, I actually prefer the paved roads better.
Honestly, I kind of like the concrete ones because I feel like the concrete ones stand to the test of time a little bit better.
Well, it's harder to repair the concrete ones versus the paved ones. You can just bring some asphalt in and patch the paved road pretty easy. Concrete, that's a much harder job to patch that.
Yeah, but the concrete, though, it lasts for a lot longer. And I feel like that's kind of like the appeal of it.
It's rougher, though.
I don't know, man. I feel like the concrete around here is pretty smooth.
Oh, but around here, you mean like in Salt Lake City, or you mean in China?
Yeah, like in the Salt Lake metro area. I mean, the concrete's pretty smooth, you know?
No, I don't find it smooth personally. I find it to be a little bit bumpy, like and stuff. Like I guess if you're in like an off-road vehicle with like a good suspension, it might feel smooth, but to me it doesn't.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but, you know, folks, I'd have to say that the Chinese construction really isn't standing up too well, because it looks like they have this building being held together by a giant green net so that way it doesn't collapse on all the surrounding buildings. That looks like that's the case over there.
It could be. It could be to keep the people in.
Or maybe keep us out. And also, let's see, what does it look like further down here? You know, China hates us, but they want to be us so badly that they basically copied the entire like U.S. road sign format with the green main color and the white outline and then the text in white. I mean, that's literally what a U.S. road sign looks like. Exactly.
Yeah, so we don't have paintings on ours like that.
Oh, you mean the Mandarin characters?
Yeah.
I was like, huh? I was like, what do you mean? But man, I mean, golly, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, bro, I'm not gonna lie. If you drove around this, oh my god. Yeah, if you drove around this is
now that's looking like the Tenderloin.
Bro, China is so much more advanced than the United States. Look at all these LED buildings. Meanwhile, it looks like you're driving literally down the middle of Skid Row in LA on this highway right here, down to Hong Kong. Now let's go somewhere else in the country, all right? Because the little bit of street view we're even seeing right now in China is basically disproving the whole propaganda deal. Let's go up to Beijing. What's up, Beijing? And let's go see what we got up here. Okay, so we have this road right here.
Oh, look, it's Yu Zhao's men performing a coup.
Oh my god, there's a firefight happening at the complex. The whole government's imploding for the 500th time in the past 4 years. Ooh.
I've always dreamed about living on those. Zoom in on it.
The socialist dream.
Yes. I love this right here. It's like you take depression, you take it all. You take it all and put it into a building, and you have this.
And also, by the way, just to bring a damper down on the parade, these buildings right here are these buildings just covered in a new awning, basically. That's it. That's usually...
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's how they do it to cut down on cost in most of these countries. Like, they do that everywhere. Like, they'll take these old, crappy-looking buildings, and they'll just basically reclad the outside and kind of renovate the interior, and then they say that it's a brand new building. And it looks new, but it still has the skeleton and structure of, like, a 50-year-old building in it.
That's awful right there. I feel like you might have like a 20 social credit score if you're living in that one. That's pretty rough.
Also, we have the backrooms apartment buildings over here. These are the liminal space ones for people who, you know, want to live in a dystopia. Also, the road signs have now changed color up here. They're now blue for the major roadways, so that's interesting. But let's go drop down somewhere up here, you know, near Yangzhen. Let's go take a look at this. You know, I'm not going to lie, folks. Chinese propaganda really takes a lot of people and fools them because, honestly, this would look like maybe like a lower middle class part of LA right here. Or even worse, really. Like, you know, Chinese propaganda has really done a number on people. Those little stupid TikToks that people watch where they're like, oh, China's really got it going on. It's like, no, they don't. Look at this. I mean, this, like, that looks like a tractor supply company somewhere in the middle of Alabama. I mean, like, that could be anywhere.
I don't know about that. This ain't no tractor supply company I'm familiar with.
Yeah, honestly, me either. I'm just trying to find something comparable. I mean, you know, it's atrocious looking. I mean, damn. But let's go.
Give us something else. Give us something better. Like, oh, okay, this is looking like a highway in Alabama.
I'm not gonna lie, man. China does not have it going on, despite what people say.
China gives me this like really bad like impending doom feeling of depression. Like every time I look at like a street view, I'm glad they turned off street view for most of the country because it's really depressing to look at.
Yeah, it's better to see the TikToks where they lie to you and they make it look like it's actually something worthwhile, but in reality, it looks like absolute garbage. I mean, ugh. I mean, and also, I don't know what it is with, like, the communist countries, but they send some bozo around with white paint, and he has to paint all of the stumps of the trees white. I don't know what it is. They do that in Russia, too, and I don't know why they do that, because if someone's careening into a tree, I don't really think the white paint's helping them a lot.
Yeah, I don't really know what's up with that.
Also, they have this rear view mirror thing so that way you can see yourself get obliterated and T-boned in 4K Ultra HD.
That's actually probably a CCTV camera behind that glass.
Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. There's a little street near Xinyang, the road to Xinyang. Let's go take a look. What the hell? What the hell is that?
Oh my god.
This guy,
hell.
This guy was getting executed by a CCP hit squad when this picture was taken. I don't even know what the context behind this one is, but that is insane
This
looking.
is horror.
Dude, like Jason Voorhees is about to pop up in that building right here and come walking out to this guy.
What's that green goo on the glass?
Bro, that's the
Is that a reflection?
Bro, blood got slimed by the CCP. He's running for his life.
It's like a big extra large bug got wiped about the windshield wiper or something like that on the glass. That's nasty as hell, whatever that is. But also, what type of building has like an LED spotlight around the top of it like that? I mean, well, I don't know what was going on there. I feel like that might have been somebody's last moments.
What the hell? The whole
Here's
place
another
looks
one.
like
This
this.
is the red light district. This is a bad spot.
Oh my god, this is insane. Like, let's go up here. What in the world is going on with this?
Moly.
This is literally just a horror montage of this guy driving through China. This is like the Twilight Zone. Like, I feel like we're not supposed to be allowed to see this.
I don't think you're supposed to see it. Forget you saw it.
Forget you saw it. Let's drop down in one of the government-approved sites. Oh, here we go. This is what they want you to think China looks like.
Yeah. It's just a little momentary break from the living hell that you have to dwell in on a 24/7 basis.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, folks, how, like, the ones that the government approves, which are the little bubbles on the map, those are the only ones that they allow out of the country. They always show China in this really nice light, but the very few street views that we have of China depicts a whole other story where it's an equivalent to a living hell, basically. Let's go to another one of the government-approved bubbles on the map in Xi'an. This one's going to be great. Yep, knew it. Look at that. Wow, look at the
How come it's the
nature.
areas that China hasn't touched? It's like the only areas they're showing off is the areas that China hasn't, messed up yet with these nasty buildings.
Let's go down to Chongqing and see if we can find anything down here. Oh, look at that. I wonder what they've approved for government viewing here. Oh, would you look at that. It's only the greatest. They only approve the greatest for external viewing.
This is the greatest? I don't know if this is the greatest.
This is the greatest for China. Like, they only allow their country to be depicted in a positive light. The street views go against that, and it's the very few street views that they allow that basically break down the whole propaganda image. But the little bubbles that we see here, these are the areas that are the nicest of a given city or a location, and they only allow these to be viewed by the outside world. So that way you think that a whole place looks something like this, when in reality, hardly any of it does. Like, for example, right here. Oh, shit, this is actually not nice. Oh my god.
Propaganda. Look at this. We got some hardcore propaganda on the wall.
Why the world do they have two T-34-85s under an interstate overpass?
I guess they're indoctrinating the folks living under the bridge.
Man, I gotta strip the copper wire. Long live Xi Jinping. Long live the Communist Party. I need to find it.
You have to make sure that they remember what it's all about.
Bro, this looks terrible. This is awful. I don't even know what this is. Oh, yo. It's a revolutionary from the Chinese Civil War. That's their little uniform that they had back then. Let's see. What about this place down here? What the hell?
Oh, look, a library. What the hell is this?
Bro, this is like...
Man, what the... This is the back rooms.
Bro, this is like one of those, like trippy optical illusions, like the endless staircase going in every direction.
This is the Squid Game thing where they had the people walking through the middle.
Yeah,
Look back up.
It is, dude.
Look at that. They had them. This is where they had them marching to the next game and stuff like that. This is literally the thing. It's in China.
We have hung 3 of the competitors for attempting to escape. Do not try to do the same thing. It's like, oh my god, bro, they're shopping for books in the Squid Game. Oh my god. Hold up. Ew. Oh my god. An abandoned storefront in China.
Is there any upside at all? Like, what do they get for free since they're a communist country? Like, they have to live in hell daily. So I would imagine keeping your mental state here is probably a bit of a challenge. But what do they get? Do they get like free healthcare? I'd imagine. Do they get like a stipend? I mean, do they get anything for their trouble?
Not really. I think they have to actually pay for most everything except for like healthcare. I think healthcare is taken care of, but it's not even that good. But also, the other thing that you have to remember, folks, is that if you say anything against the Chinese Communist Party that's critical, and you end up crossing the radar or it's a little bit too critical, they can strip you of all of your personal property instantly by law as punishment. So you basically end up becoming homeless if you criticize the government enough. So I would have to say, you know, China... The propaganda really makes a totally different picture of China than what it really is, like we already knew, but just for all y'all to see, I mean, this isn't really looking too hot, to be completely frank. Like,
oh. Also, by the way, China does not have a fully free universal healthcare system, so they don't have the one thing. They don't have the one thing that communist countries are supposed to pride themselves on. They don't even have that. Let's see, do they have free housing?
They got Obama. Man,
oh, wait a minute. It says housing in China is not generally free. There's some... Okay, so they have like the equivalent of Section 8 housing vouchers inside of China. They have the equivalent... I mean, how's this any different than America? They're getting robbed of everything. It's really not different. Hold on a minute.
There's a lot different in that you have no rights, basically. You can't own a gun.
I mean, outside of the rights.
I mean, honestly, they don't get anything, dude. It's basically just America, but far worse in every way to live in.
Let's see here. Let's see. Is college free in China? Let's see. Did they have free college? College is not free in China. And these bastards have been selling a lie. They've been selling a lie. This isn't communist.
Look, dude, here's their communist-approved city square to make them look kind of good. Right here. Here it is. Oh, yo, KFC and Starbucks. Well, they can't escape, can they? They cannot escape the ever-reaching ends of capitalism, can they? Not even in a communist country. Better luck next time, Jack. Also, what's down here? Ah, yes. The Hot Wheels racetrack. We always wanted one of those in America.
I would not drive on that.
That looks like it will collapse any given day now.
That does not look stable.
And also, look at that rundown apartment building right next to it that's got all the mold and grime on the wall on the outside.
That is insane. Also, by the way, is there anything else we could check on? Like, what's another thing that people think communist countries have that they may not have? Like, I've done education, healthcare, housing. Does China provide a pension? Please don't tell me this is a no. This is about to change my whole perception of everything. Oh, Chinese citizens get their pension once they retire. But wait a minute. Hold on, there's a catch. The government can choose to offer a pension based on the funding they receive. Man, this is a total scam.
So
this
wait
is
a minute.
Total scam.
So wait a minute. A government official can just go, "Oh, we're out of money," and just not give you a pension. Oh my god!
Apparently,
Bruh,
it says
scam.
It says China's National Council for Social Security Fund is the largest pension fund in China. So it's the same thing that America's got. It's a Social Security fund.
Oh my god! So literally, their whole propaganda initiative is a scam at every angle.
So honestly, it's just America, but you lose the few rights that we have in America. You just lose them and you just live in hell.
Honestly, you lose the many rights that you have in America because think about just the Bill of rights that you have. One, I mean, hell, even beyond the Bill of Rights, think about all the amendment rights. If you're not the right minority in China, you don't have any rights. You know, like you just don't. You have them completely wiped away by China. You don't have the freedom of speech. You don't have the freedom of the press. You don't have the freedom to own a firearm. You don't have the freedom to deny soldiers the quarter in your house during peacetime. You also don't have the right to not have unreasonable searches and seizures conducted against you. You do not have a right to jury by trial of your peers. You do not have really the right to anything, honestly, at all in China. Literally all of your rights don't exist. And then you also have everything that America has in the things that people complain about. And then you also have no rights. So basically, for everyone who keeps on saying America should be more like China, you're basically saying that America should just become shittier at the end of it all, because there's nothing better in China.
Also, by the way, like, what is a starting social credit score in China? What do you get
That's
as
a good question.
Let's see here. Oh my God. There's actually a baseline. You get a default score when you start. So it's like a credit score. In many local programs of the social credit system, citizens start with a baseline score of 1,000 points, often classified as grade A. That's like food or trustworthy rating.
Grade A USDA Chinese citizen.
How it changes. The score increases or decreases based on your behavior. Good deeds, like donating blood and volunteer work, adds points, while bad behavior, like traffic violations and not paying debts and social misconduct, results in deductions. Let's see here. Sesame credit. What the hell's that mean?
Bro, they got that
let's see here.
sesame seed bun credit. Like, bro.
So apparently it is true that if you do the wrong things, apparently they'll bounce your score down a bit, and you can't even exercise basic freedoms if your score gets bounced low enough. So if you buy a little too much liquor at the store one day and they say, okay, he's getting bounced down a couple of levels, you might not be able to drive your car the next day. So that's a bit interesting. So it is a bit strange though. It's basically like the credit score system in the United States, except they take your behavior and they add that as a factor to it. Because they also factor in finances to the score too.
Now that is BS, dude. It is already hard enough to keep a good credit score, much less with that shit. Like, it's like, bro, imagine, dude, people in America would have no social credit by the first day it was implemented because of the road rage that goes on. Everyone will lose social credit in like minutes. But someone is saying that we should take a look at Taiwan. And before we get back to our questions here, because we spent a hot minute on China, we will take a look at Taiwan. So let's take a look. Let's see, Matthew. Let's pick out of the cities that I'm going to list: Kaohsiung, Tainan, Taichung, or Taipei.
Taipei. That's where that Alex fellow just climbed the building. Taipei 101.
Taipei 101.
Also, by the way, to answer the person's question real quick, someone in the chat said, Matt, how many points does jaywalking dock you in China? About 3 points. So
Really?
every time you jaywalk, that's dinging you 3 points. Like, you're getting dinged about 3 points. You only have 1,000 you started with. So if you get dinged 3 points too many times, all of a sudden you're in deep trouble.
I have a feeling that system's probably more punishing than it is rewarding. Like, doing a good deed gets you like 1 point, and a bad deed loses you like 3. I have a feeling that's probably how it works. But
wait a second. Not visiting aging parents regularly is a big offense. Apparently, you lose a lot of points for that. Let's see here. Drunk driving, that's a score killer. Let's see here. There's actually a whole list of things here that affected. Real quick, before we move on to that Taipei thing, I got to look at this real quick. This is fascinating to me. Let me zoom in here real quick. Let me try to get a look. Let's see here. So here's the sins that can lead you to trouble. Let's see here. Hold on a second. So illegally protesting against the authorities, that's a big offense. You're going to lose a lot of points. Let's see here. Posting anti-government messages on social media, that's going to wreck you. Let's see. Spreading false rumors on the internet, regardless of the origin, that's a huge score killer too. Insincere apologies for crimes committed. If you do not apologize to the satisfaction of the Chinese CCP, your score almost gets wiped out. Let's see here. Participating in anything deemed to be a cult, that's going to wipe your score clean off. So if you're in the cult of Matt, your whole career is finished in China. Might not want to claim that. Cheating in online games. That's a sin. That literally wipes your score out by 3/4 if you cheat
Oh
in an
my
online
god,
game.
bro!
No joke.
You cheated in League of Legends. You're now banished out of China.
That's crazy. That's
Oh my
like one of the lowest. That's one of the worst sins you can do. Actually, is to cheat in an online game. It must be a gamers that's making these laws. But let's see here.
Xi
So,
Jinping,
so
bro,
then,
Xi Jinping was playing GTA 5. He's like, man, F these hackers. Like, get rid of their social credits. Like, what?
so apparently the thing that does you the best is donating blood. They're really fond of donating blood for some reason. Like that's a huge score booster. Is giving a little bit of blood to the CCP. Helping the poor is a good one. Committing a heroic act. Praising the government on social media boosts your score a bunch. Like if you do that, you're getting like ding, 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 like you're getting some points. Taking care of elderly family members is good, and engaging in influencing one's neighborhood to advance the CCP is another big one. So basically, everything you get dinged for is pretty much speaking against the government for the most part, and you get increased. It's basically all about the government and how much you're criticizing the government or not.
Bruh, alcoholics in China be on that, like, pro-CCP grind, bro. Like, they're like, long live the CCP, instead of, like, drinking their Hennessy or something. They're like, man, I love Xi Jinping. And their social credit score is just in a constant state of increasing and decreasing all day. But also, now it's time for us to get on down into Taipei, folks. Honestly, that's absolutely insane. But let's take a look at Taipei. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, the market improvement here. But this is right next to Taipei 101, so that might be why. So let's go pick another part of Taipei. Let's go pick the Taishan district. Don't know what this is, but let's take a gander. Oh, let's take a gander. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this is actually, like, somewhat comparable to mainland China. In my opinion, it's kind of similar, actually. But I mean, you know, like,
It kind of is.
I mean, like, you know, that's not putting Taiwan down or anything, but at the same time, for China to talk about the merits of being a communist country, I mean, really anyone's able to kind of beat them at the punch, and you also get some rights and liberties. So, you know, I mean, take that for what... Actually, that was a pretty scenic little spot right there when you look down that street. Like, I'm not gonna lie, dude, that looks like that would be like a poster or something.
It really does.
But anyways, with that, folks, we do have to move on into some questions, because we've been on this whole paved road thing for a minute. And so with that, Matthew, what do we got?
Also, by the way, if your social credit score gets too low, I think that might get you in more trouble than prison in China. I don't think they put that on the books, though. I think it might be something that's just understood. But anyway, jumping into our super chats once again, we're jumping into our first one, which goes to none other than Mark Ead. And Mark Ead put in a $50 support like usual, and we appreciate you very much, Mark, for once again being very generous and supporting the channel bigly. He said, Wicked Wednesdays, fellas. Peel one out from the chat. LSA, New Zealand from the South.
Hey, and a big shout out to Marky from New Zealand in the South. And we thank you so much for the support. And we will peel out. Like, and a huge thanks to you so much for the support. And I hope that you enjoyed our road segment well, because that was one hell of a road segment right there, taking a look at the roads. And so a huge thanks to you so much for the support. And you help us to be able to make this channel possible, and help us to be able to have the really interesting and hilarious road segment that we had. So a humongous thanks to you so much once again. And also, what does the town of Gore look like? One hell of a name right there. What does the town of Gore look like here in New Zealand? Let's take a look. Oh, how quaint. Kind of looks like a small American town, honestly.
Why is everywhere around the whole world like it's been boarded up?
It just is how it is these days, man. Like, it's just...
I feel like this economic crisis is not just limited to the United States. I feel like the whole world might be feeling it.
You know, honestly, man, I think the world is, like, in an economic recession, I'll be completely frank, because, like, people are like, oh, the U.S. economy is doing bad, but every bit of news that we get out of the rest of the world is like, Iran's economy is completely collapsed, China's on the verge of collapse, Russia has collapsed, everyone in Europe is on the verge of a collapse, or they're in a recession right now. It's basically like that everywhere, no matter what part of the world you're in right now. It's just kind of, economic rough time at the moment, but big thanks to you though for the support, Marquis, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the live chat question in honor of Mark E goes to TK, who said, was the Chinese arrested the Minister of Defense? Did they have links to Russia?
Not that we know of. Zhang Yuzha did not have any links to Russia that we would know of that were significant in any way. So big thanks to you for the for sponsoring our live chat, Mark Eaton, and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Luke UK, who puts in a $50 support. And thank you very much, Luke, for that very generous 50. And I do not see a comment. I was double checking, though, to make sure that there was no comment attached to that. And there's not, but he left a super sticker of the YouTube Doge saying, "You're amazing." And Enforcer, what say you?
Hey, and you're amazing for supporting this channel and helping us to keep it running. And we thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep rolling, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that was addressed that well. And also, I just saw someone say, this is the boss battle, folks, of Street View. Try India. Now, that's a tall order. That's a tall order right there. We're going to oblige the request. Let's see. Should we put it down in here?
Oh, this is looking bad from the street or from the satellite.
This is looking juicy. Oh!
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to lie, y'all. New Delhi is a rough place. Like, it is rough. I've watched some people on travel blogs go here, and I just could never. I'm not, like, I would not be able to survive.
Let's see another.
It's just,
honestly, like, no offense, like, I personally know folks from India and things like that, good people, but at the same time, though, India would be the very last country on the entire planet that I would ever want to live in. Like, I just could not tolerate. It's too much chaos. Like, the streets are chaotic. It's not being kept clean. I think that's pretty clear. There's no sanitation hardly going on here at all. I think my brain would get overloaded living here. Like all the noise constantly, all the chaos, the trash all over the streets. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't.
also, the amount of overhead electrical wires reminds me of the 1890s in America, when people were making political cartoons about being electrocuted to death from all of the electrical wires overhead. It just, I don't know, something about it, it just doesn't really appeal to me, you know? Maybe it's the incredibly crowded streets, the lack of regulations on electrical lines, or maybe just, like, the trash. I mean, the trash is everywhere. I mean, literally, look at that. I mean, you know, in America, that would be considered pretty rough off, and in India, this is kind of a standard. I don't know. Well, let's go drop down in another city rather than New Delhi. Let's go to Lucknow. Maybe we need some of that. Let's go drop down here and take a look. Blimey!
Man, I just feel like there's no escaping the like. What's the problem with having things organized? I mean, why is there such disorganization like all over India? Like, no offense, but it's like they don't. Do they not, like, seriously? I'm not saying this to insult, but do they not invest in public sanitation at all? Because I mean, there's literally no evidence of anybody like cleaning or maintaining anything anywhere in any city.
Bruh, the Shiv Mobile Shiv stall.
Shiv Mobile. What's your carrier? Shiv Mobile. Oh, damn.
Bro whips out a sharpened screwdriver. Like, man, let's see. And then we got this abandoned building here that has trash piled up all outside of it, and it looks to be overgrown and collapsing right now. So, I'm just not gonna lie, y'all. I don't know what it is, but I think, to be entirely honest with y'all folks, the straight up answer would be the problem that I have with, like, India and ever the idea of traveling to it is the lack of sanitation in every single facet of life. Like, there's no, like, regulations by, like, health inspectors for food restaurants, because everyone says you get food poisoning if you go to India. There's no, like, I guess there's no civil fines for littering, because there is trash on every street, and nobody ever seems to get in trouble for that. It's just something.
Well, get this, though. Get this. Back in 2020, India spent $30 billion to fix the broken sanitation. They admitted that it was broken. They admitted it was filthy. So they invested $30 billion to fix it. They brought in a whole bunch of foreign investors, too, that wanted to get their foot in the door and investing in India to fix the problem. And it looks like they really haven't made much progress with it. I'm not sure where the $30 billion went, but I mean, I'm not really seeing much progress here.
If you want to know something interesting, this is actually something that was actually kind of bizarre. Way back at the beginning of this decade, in like 2021, it was in the middle of the whole, you know, thing with the Wuhan and all. But anyways, Back then, Modi actually brought up some money. It was like several $100 million to install public toilets. I'm not even kidding about the story. This is a true story. Public toilets throughout most of the major cities in India to stop people from urinating and defecating on the walls in the streets, because that's a fairly common thing there. So the untouchables, which are the bottom caste of the Indian social structure, they went around and destroyed all of the toilets because it was against their cultural practice. And and it was a big enough thing that the Indian police had to make an announcement that anyone who was caught vandalizing or destroying the public toilets would face some form of jail time. And I just like I cannot get past the lack of sanitation. Indian food's great, Indian culture is very interesting, but the lack of sanitation part, that would make it very hard for me to travel there, because I'm not the cleanest person in the world, but at the same time I do have like a standard of cleanliness, and it doesn't really meet that, you know.
I think I would have a mental breakdown. Like, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not OCD officially, but I'm like to that level of organization and keeping things super clean, like very clean, like clinically clean. And I feel like I would have a mental breakdown just walking the streets in India. I feel like I would lose it. It just, I mean, I just don't understand. I get, I mean, they can do whatever they want. I just don't understand how they do not want to clean the streets up. Like, if they just clean the streets up, it'll look so much better. Like, it would look a lot better, and they would attract a lot more tourism too, because people would think, oh, look, they're clean streets, things like that. I want to go, but I just don't understand why they don't.
Yeah, I mean, and also I just saw someone say, as an Indian, I agree, but you should travel to the mountains. And yeah, I would say even in America, the places of natural beauty are always better than the cities. But I still feel like there ought to be like a minimum expectation of sanitation in a city. Because like most people in the world these days, they live in a city. The world is an urbanized place these days. So if the cities lack any sort of minimal sanitation, I mean, it's not just a thing with appearance. It's really more so a thing for public health, because a lack of sanitation spreads disease, which puts more people out of the workforce on the weekly. It causes a higher mortality rate within the citizenry. It's just generally not beneficial for a functioning nation to have low sanitation. And that's one thing that just really kind of like floors me with India, is that it just doesn't really seem like there's any cultural expectation of sanitation standards. And that's just really weird to me, you know. And like some like the lower castes, like the untouchables, they pride themselves even on the lack of sanitation. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And moving into our next super chat, this one goes to Aussie Chopper, who puts in a $31 support. And thank you very much, Aussie, for that 31. We appreciate that. It said, greetings from I'm 30,000 feet between New Zealand and Australia. Love the work every day, and take one from the chat.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, and really cool to hear. And I hope that you're having a good time out there, down there in the Oceania continent. And I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And also, the live chat question goes to Dumb Wabbits, who said, do you think that it's always the U.S. Armed Forces too long to plan, and it seems like they take them weeks to act?
Generally, most militaries are kind of constrained by that, because it takes a lot of time to get a military plan in place and get everyone on the same page. So generally, it doesn't take too long. It's that the civil administration takes too long to decide, because the military's planning phase is always going to take several weeks and up until it gets to the point of execution of the plan. It's that the civil administration of the United States, i.e. the president, should have already started to move forces into the area once protests began back at the very latter part of December. We should have already seen that the movements were happening, instead of what we've seen now, which was about a week and a half ago, U.S. force movements finally started. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And a big thanks to you once again for sponsoring a live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running, and we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to none other than Crispy, who puts in a $25 support. And thank you very much, Crispy, as well, for helping to keep us running all the time. And Crispy did not leave a comment, though, but we do appreciate it. And Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Yenya Tolls, who puts in a $20 donation. And they've added the little, what do they call that little squiggly line above like the E? What do they call that in Spanish language?
A tilde?
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, I think it's a tilde.
A tilde. Is that? Let's see. Let's pull out a tilde. I thought you said. I don't see anything about that.
Let's see. Hold up. Oh my god, man.
thought you
It's a
took Spanish.
tilde. It's literally right here. Tilde. Tilde.
Oh, tilde, not a tilde. You said you said a tilde.
Well, you said, what is that? I said, that's a tilde. You know, like a tilde.
Man, you said a tilde too close. You said it too close, but it's tilled.
When the squiggle hits the end like a big pizza pie, that's a tilde. But anyways, go on, hit us with it.
But tilde, they got the little thing above there. But they said gold and silver skyrockets, dollar falls. Where are we getting the money to fund all this? I bet they're just printing it. America first. They are printing it. That is the unfortunate answer. They are printing it. And every time they print another dollar, I don't care what people say about it. It's just, they just add numbers. It devalues the dollar every single time they do that. And we're printing money like crazy. So devaluation is hitting. I think we can see that. The charts back that up. It's not just speculation. And the fact that people are throwing money into gold and silver tells you that people are starting to pick up on that, which is a bad sign. But Enforcer, what say you?
Silver and gold. Silver and gold.
Man, it's just true. Those what they call it, the end times folks, the ones who are like the people that are preppers, are like, you'll be trading in little pieces of gold for your food. It turns out they might be right.
You'll be trading in silver and gold for your food. Bro, like it's going to be like the era of the conquistadors. Like you're going to go around, here's a pouch of silver for that chicken. It's like, bro. Man, honestly, man, I probably say I wouldn't even say what I'd say in that sort of apocalyptic situation. I feel like raw commodities like munitions will probably speak more than the silver and the gold. I'll just say it that way. But beyond that,
Like trading ammunition, you mean?
sure, you can put it that way. Like, you know,
Okay. I was wondering if that was what you meant or not.
man, bro. You mean trading it? Yeah, sure. You know, you can say that. You know, send a couple their way, and maybe you get a couple back. But anyways,
I'm sure they'd be very valuable to trade, like a couple of these for a couple of those.
bro, you give me a couple of them chickens, I give you a couple of these. But anyways, beyond that, though, we were basically just printing the stuff. The Bureau of Printing and Engraving goes brr, and the Treasury Department goes brr, and we just produce the money, and that's what is also causing some of the inflation, or a good part of it. And so I hope that is addressed to the best I can, and a big thanks to you for the support, and help this channel to keep on running.
Also, by the way, you know, there's that whole controversy about the Fed, right? Like, the whole thing with that.
Oh yeah, about raising the rates?
Yeah. You know why they call them the Fed?
Why?
Because while the rest of us go broke, they're the only ones that are still fed, so they call
Oh
them
my
the Fed.
god, bro! I thought of that when you said that. You're like, "Why do they call them the Fed?" I was like, "I don't know,"
Yeah,
and
they
then I
call
thought
them
of that
Fed.
right after. Oh,
They're the
man,
only
look.
ones eating. That's why they call them the Fed, because they're fed and we're not.
Man, Powell's up there going, "This is a witch." The problem is he increases the rates. Oh man, bro, what about this charge? Wait a minute, you just added a whole other building. No, I didn't. Oh my lord! Honestly, that whole deal with the Fed folks is a comedy show. Like at this point. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Leesburg Paranormal, who puts in at 20. And thank you very much, Leesburg, for that support. He said, does the varmint or the fly, the varmint, think that Iran will do a preemptive strike on Israel or wait and play victim? LSA.
Oh, we got to go get the marmot. Tonight's a special night.
It's not the varmint, by the way. That's the marmot.
The damn varmints. They get down.
I've never heard them call them the varmint.
Oh, hello there.
Oh, hello there, Governor. It's me, the varmint. Not the vomit, but the varmint. Having a troublesome day. They said, sir, we want to make sure that the people are fed, not just the Fed. And they said, investigate that man, sir. They said, see if there's something criminal about him or something. But anyways, they said the money printer go, brrr. What's the fly say down there?
My position is compromised. Oh, man.
Oh no. Oh dear. Time to exfil.
Oh, man. I did that to the enforcers for 3 years, and then when it happens to me, I'm packing up shop that day. Oh, man. But
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I gotta say that whole thing with the Fed, folks, is something else. Something else, I'd say. But beyond that, though, I hope that addresses your question of what the Marmon and the Fly would say. And the big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And I see a lot of people talking about the Fly, and I think some people might pay attention to this here and there, but I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, folks, but apparently his position has been compromised, and someone found out where he's from, and so he's actually having to pack up shop and move house that day, at least according to him, I believe. So I gotta say that's really interesting, because the guy's making himself out to be the victim there, and I feel like he did that to us for like 2 straight years and had people showing up at our place basically like every other week, threatening us.
Yeah, luckily for us though. Luckily for us, though, we're not degenerates. So even though we despise the guy, like I don't wish people to show up at his place. Like as much as I despise the guy, I will never endorse people showing up. That clown may have endorsed that on us, but we won't endorse it back on him. We're not degenerates like that. So we don't endorse things like that, to say the least. But he wouldn't have thought twice about it, and he didn't for a long time. His whole community was encouraging things like that. So that's the difference between us and him.
I'd say I don't endorse it, but one thing I will say is that it is rather ironic, though, that he did that to us for 2 straight years, and now it seems the balls come bouncing back. So I will say that's quite ironic, but I would say that that's rather unfortunate for him. Generally that's why you don't play those stupid games, because I mean, someone might end up doing it to you, and it's not that great in any way, whether you're the receiving one or the one giving that kind of stuff out to people. But anyways. With that, though, it is time for us to move on from the Marmon and the Fly, and a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jack ALN, and he puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Jack, for that support as well. He said, LOL, there's no room here. It's either the easy way or the hard way with the United States.
The easy way or the hard way? I say it always should be the easy way. Everyone should get along with the United States, and we should get along with everyone else. That's our allies, at least, because it's a great thing to do. A great, wonderful thing to do. So a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 20 from Arar 983, and thank you very much, Arar, as well. They said, Pan-Seared Air Defense Salmon Fund, LSA.
Hey, and that sounds really good, actually. That sounds delicious. That sounds tremendous. And I thank you for the support and helping us to have a delicious dish like that. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Coleslaw, who puts in the 20. And thank you very much, Coleslaw, for that support. He said, thank you guys for the amazing news coverage tonight. I did see, while I was at work, those galaxies y'all was talking about. It was flying around at 2,100 feet. But here in San Antonio, it's super common, and LSA.
And I think,
and also we were talking about galaxies.
Yeah, the C5 galaxies.
Oh, he's talking about the. Oh, okay. I thought I was taking that too literally. I get it now.
There they are. Look at those monsters. Real creature these are. I mean, these are huge, like truly massive aircraft. Pretty common down there because y'all have one of the few air wings that operates them. Because we only have like 50 something of these, so I think we have like 5 of these squadrons in the whole of the world, and one of them's down here in San Antonio. But pretty cool nonetheless. And oh my goodness, it's near to the Union Pacific. So Sanyar, look at that. So Sanyar, wow, look at that. So cool. Railroads, But anyways, big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. And thank you for enjoying our show and literally watching the planes flying on around. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I see people going around talking about, Hot Dog Man was going around, bothering people and stuff like that. In fact, he was doing a lot more than just bothering people. He was creating scenes on the street in his home state. He certainly was, I could tell, but looking at the footage, was certainly causing hell, to say the least. So, I mean, it's stupid people like him, and also like a whole bunch of other like extreme idiots that love to hang out around people like him that end up causing the country to fall apart. It's like, we don't need fools running around the street acting like fools like that, like he was doing. It's like that is stupidity, and it's like you're dwelling in stupidity, and he loves it because he's an idiot. And he's literally bringing that into his own life because he wants to dwell in that. So it's like, that's why you don't dwell in stuff like that. Let me stop there before I get foul. But anyways, moving on though. You want to add something?
Yes, I would like to add a thing or two. I will say this though, folks. I just gotta say, this whole thing that's going on with Hot Dog Man, how he acts, how the people who found his place act, I'm just not gonna lie. I'm gonna be kind of straight up. It's pretty damn cringe. I mean, like, when you actually watch all of these people doing their stuff, they're all so full of themselves. Like, they all think they're saving the world by playing these stupid games like children. And I watched them all, and we had to deal with a hot dog man for 2 years and his stupidity, basically almost getting us hurt or killed multiple times with his stupid actions. And then you watch people doing it back on him, and it's like, oh my god, it's like everyone who does these stupid things, they're all cringe as hell. Like, they're all full of themselves. They all act like breaking the law and doing this absolutely insano vigilante stuff is good. Like, it's like, no, it's not. And also, I'll say this. Being an American, I will tell y'all, I don't really like the hot dog man. I don't really like what he did to us for the first 2 years that we were running this channel, basically having us harassed and tormented every single week of every day of our lives. But one thing that I'll say is that I never wish that on someone else. I will say it's quite ironic that it did come back around to bite him eventually, and basically a whole other group's doing that to him now. But one thing I'll also say is that being an American, I believe in the rule of the law, and I don't believe in vigilante justice. So, for one, I don't think Hot Dog Man should have been able to do what he did to us and get away with it, and I don't really think the people doing that to him should be able to get away with that either. Because that's how you start to have the breakdown of law in this country, and you have all these mob rule idiots from the left and the right basically running around having their own little hit squads, harassing people everywhere and getting away with it all the time, which is ridiculous. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Wouldn't it be nice if other people thought the same way? Like, wouldn't it be nice if, like, all these political extremist lunatics you see running around these days on both sides, not just one or the other, the extremists on both sides, they have so much hatred. Like, for example, we have enough about us, even though the hot dog man has done stuff to us that we've never had happen to us in our entire life. They got literally harassed us. We had to sue him. I mean, it was the whole thing. He was spreading lies about us, claiming we were stealing money from fundraisers and stuff. He was doing significant damage. But we still have the I guess you'd say the gumption or the gall to put that aside and still realize, hey, look, we can't promote like degenerate behavior like that. Like showing up somebody's door is out of the question. Like you don't do that, even against somebody you don't like. But the political extremists don't think like that. They're the type that would encourage stuff like that to happen, and they're the reason why the country is falling apart right now. Is because fools like that put their hatred over everything, including being American and their their brothers and sisters, whether you hate them or not, being Americans too. So it's really wild how these extremists operate. It's really honestly disgusting. But moving on to our next one here. This one goes to some Canadian dude who puts in a $14 support, and thank you very much, some Canadian dude, for that support. He said, love the show. It goes great with the evening cigar. And also, y'all cool if I shout out a Ukrainian painter again.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be fine with that, and I thank you, Master, for the support and enjoying this channel and helping it to keep on running so we can make this thing possible night to night. So a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jan Morgan, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Jan, for that 10. They said, appreciate the channel a lot.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, and thank you for appreciating the channel a whole deal. We're always massively appreciative of it, and we thank folks like you for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jason Carney, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Jason, for that support. He says, shout out to Alan the Marmot.
Hey, and a big shout out to Alan the Marmot. He just made a special appearance tonight, just a little earlier. And we always thank you so much for the support and enjoying Alan the Marmot, because Alan the Marmot is one hell of a little critter. He's a cool one. And so a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Alan Gallardo, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Alan, as well. He said, take one from the chat and enjoy some Costco chicken.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support. And we will take one from the chat, and we will also have some Costco chicken. So, Matthew, what do we got from the live chat?
And the live chat question goes to I'm D. Stevenson, who said, how are we going to fend off large drone swarms? And we have to do it cheaply. We have to do it in a wide field because you can't use missiles to take them down. It's too costly. So that's the problem we're running into today. Mainly electronic warfare is the future, as long as it's not a fiber optic system that we're fighting against. If it's wireless, then electronic warfare can handle it if we develop the right systems. I think the U.S. has those systems, just haven't really fielded them yet. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say electronic warfare and some kinetic defense, like, say, a laser-based missile system. That's not even really kinetic. That's actually a directed energy weapon. But laser-based air defense systems for short-range defense and electronic warfare for broader front-wide defense. So I would say the two mixed together would make a pretty good anti-drone sort of a doctrine for both the fiber optics and the wireless. So a big thanks to you once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to one from the chat who puts in the 10. And they said, the numbers seem to be dropping. Is Russia running out of assets? And how many tanks and aircraft are left?
Well, unfortunately, we don't really know those numbers exactly because it fluctuates a lot week to week. So we would assume they don't really have a lot of much left, and they probably are running out of assets. We just don't know by how much. But a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 10 from Ed. And Ed said, Irish Ed here. Man, I get worried about our carriers. And what is the chances of Iran firing off so many missiles that the carrier gets overwhelmed? And they overwhelmed the Iron Dome in Israel before, and it only takes one.
The chances are pretty slim because the carrier has, at least with the Arleigh Burkes right now, 300 missile interceptors ready to go. And if you load out a ton of the Super Hornets with the maximum amount of AMRAAMs and AIM-9s that they can carry, you can also see that that would be augmented by, about another 70 or 80 interceptors available at a given moment, and then the aircraft rearm and go back out. So you could get, before they made it close enough to the fleet for Sea Whizzes and the main or flat cannons to fire, the main guns on the destroyers, I mean, hell, you could probably shoot down about 500 or 600 air targets, and that during that entire time, that carrier group is going to be making all available speed away from the area to try and get themselves some distance and a little bit further response time, and also to get out of the area, considering that their ammunition will probably be depleted by then. So in general, our carrier group will be incredibly safe, and on top of that, once they start to see larger amounts of air targets on radar, I can promise you that that carrier is, and its group, is going to be immediately leaving the area at full speed, to try and get away from that group, give itself enough reaction time, and also get enough aircraft up in the air to be able to go and deal with those as well and shoot them down. So I hope that does address that the best I can. I would not really worry too much about the carrier group. It'll probably be very safe, to be entirely honest. But a humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I know this one's going to get people going, but the nuke sniffer has been deployed toward Europe. So this is actually, it's nothing to get crazy alarmed about, but the nuke sniffer is on its way. It's Cobra 31. I'm not sure if you see it on the radar or not, but it should be somewhere over Canada, perhaps. It looks like an hour ago, so it might be a little further out. Punch in Cobra 31 and see what you get in the search bar there.
Transponders off, Governor.
Are you sure?
Yes, there's...
Just type it in and see what you get in the search bar.
Well, I don't really want to. Let's see. Yep, it's transponders off.
Okay. So it was heading out toward Europe the last time we saw it. So it's heading out that way. I will say that's not I don't think that's a routine deployment. Correct me if I'm wrong, though, but I don't think that's routine. It's only sent out on a need basis, meaning when they want it out there. So apparently they need it for some reason. I'm not sure if they're sending it down to monitor the Middle East or not. Not really sure where it's heading, but it's going to Europe first, and it could bounce to the Middle East from there.
Well, you know, we already had a rivet joint land at Al-Hadid earlier today.
A rivet joint. I thought this was a constant Phoenix, though, the nuke sniffer.
Well, isn't the RC-135 V like a nuke sniffer?
No, it's the WC-135.
Let's see here. Hold up. So, let me go get the other one. Let's see, WZ-135. Let me go get that.
Also, by the way, I don't believe for a second that Iran has nukes, by the way. Like, if people are assuming that's the reason why it's heading out, I don't think that's the reason.
Actually, it appears that, let's see. Hold up. It appears that it's not a WC-135. I can't find that designation. I can only find the RC-135, and one of those landed at Al-Hadid earlier today.
Let's see. No, there is a WC-135. That's the Constant Phoenix.
Hold up, let me go pull up the Constant Phoenix, because I just tried to pull it up on Google, and it didn't come up. Well, there is one. Here it is. That didn't come up. I typed in RC-135, and it just kept on pulling up the WC-135, and it kept on pulling up the RC-135. Because we have one of these down at Al-Hadid right now, but I think we saw one of these the last time in Europe like 6 months ago, and it kind of just like flew along the NATO frontier, and then it flew back. So I mean, it's not wildly common, but it isn't unheard of, though.
Yeah. Also, by the way, just in case you all are curious, this thing takes air samples. That's what the thing does. It takes samples of the air and tests it for nuclear isotopes, and that's what determines whether or not there's been a nuclear explosion in a certain area. So when they send this thing out, I mean, in theory, the idea is that they suspect a nuclear explosion or a nuclear release has happened somewhere, and they're trying to confirm that by sending out this aircraft to take air samples. That's usually what this aircraft is used for. And like I said, it's a need-to-need basis, to my understanding. So there's only 3 of them in service, so they send them to where they're needed, obviously, because there's only 3 of them. So we don't know exactly where this one's going once it gets to Europe. It could be going to the Middle East. We simply don't know yet.
Yes, I'd have to say that it is rather interesting, though. What an interesting creature here. Look at it. Look at the size of it. I mean, man, the U.S. Air Force has like an obsession with the Boeing 707 like fuselage, man. They're like, man, we can fit so much stuff in this bad boy. Like, there's aerial tanker versions, there's the command version, there's the nuclear sniffer version, and also, before someone says this, yes, I do know that the 707 is not the direct airframe that's used. It's a variation of the 707 that then is used for everything that we use in the Air Force, but still basically has the bones of a 707, and I find that to be kind of funny that in commercial aviation, this thing's completely gone. In the Air Force, it is like hotcakes. They cannot have enough of these, and they cannot use them in enough variants. But anyways, with that, I hope that has addressed it well. Very interesting to hear, though. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Dade Carnes, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Dade, for that support. He said, LSA.
Hey, and long live the Least Spring Army, and a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible. So a big thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, Milk said, does it only detect nuclear blast or forms of nuclear energy as well? To my understanding, it only takes air samples. That's my understanding. It could, I'm sure they have Geiger tubes on board, like a Geiger counter type system. I'm sure they have that too. But also the air samples is typically the main primary mode of the aircraft is to take those samples so they can test it for that type of stuff. So I'm sure they probably use multiple different methods, because I'm sure they want to be 100% certain of what they detect. So they probably have redundancies, like multiple ways to detect it. But jumping into our next one here, this one goes to Mr. Webb, who puts in a 5. He said, what was the final outcome of the military guys that went missing in the tank?
In Lithuania?
Possibly. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. It was a recovery vehicle, it was an M288. It fell into a bog, and basically all 3 guys in the M288 drowned inside the bog. So they ended up becoming deceased. It wasn't anything Russian related. It's just they drowned, basically. But I hope that this addressed it the best I can. And a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Sarah M. Baker, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Sarah, for that support. They said, hey there, Iranian here, big fan. And those are all in Arabic and probably made with by Hezbollah or Hem. Hez or Hem.
Interesting. Maybe that was supposed to be Hamas. But I do, done with Hamas. But a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel keep running. Thank you for being a big fan. An Iranian, big fan of the channel. I thank you so much for that. And also, I got to say, that probably is an interesting insight right there. Maybe they were made by them. We'll have to see. But a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running and sharing that with us. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from JDO. He said, I love the latest U.S. weapon known as the Iranian Creeper, courtesy of DARPA.
I'm just a creeper. Man, but anyways, beyond that, a big thanks to you for support. I've never heard of the Iranian creeper. I feel like that's some peeping Tom in Iran. They call him the Iranian creeper. But beyond that, a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. And I hope I was able to address that somewhat well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Chris AC Checker Taxi. He puts in a 5 and said, so is the U.S. military flights banned from flying over Israel, or are they flying around it for OPSEC to keep Iran proxies from taking pop shots at Israel?
They're flying around it because they're not allowed to fly through, and there's no pot shots. Like, everyone keeps on trying to say, well, they do that because it's dangerous. But here's the thing, though. If Hamas or Hezbollah was to take pot shots at a U.S. military aircraft, why wouldn't they take pot shots at the endless amount of El Al flights that go flying in and out of Israel, out of Tel Aviv every day? I mean, that airport is just 5 miles from the West Bank, about, I think it's like 30 miles away from the northern border of the Gaza Strip. Let's see here. Here's an El Al flight right there. Why didn't they shoot at that one? I mean, if their number one enemy is Israel, if they had air defense capabilities to shoot something down, they would fire at every Israeli plane that takes off from Tel Aviv every day. They would fire at the Israeli helicopters that fly over the Gaza Strip and literally strafe the area with the chain gun. They would fire at the Israeli Air Force when they're bombing the Gaza Strip. They never do, because nobody, neither Hamas nor Hezbollah, has any air defense capabilities. So it's not because the United States is scared of getting shot down. There's no pot shots to be had. They can't even do that. What it is that Israel doesn't allow us to fly through their airspace, so we have to fly around it, which is very annoying to me, because it's like, for Israel to claim that they are our greatest ally, I can name several dozen lesser allies, according to them, that allow us to fly through their airspace and also use their bases in their country for U.S. military operations, when Israel allows neither. And, you know, that's the thing that annoys me, is that there's this huge push in America to where people like irrationally hate Israel, or they just love Israel to the point that you can't ever criticize our strategic relation with them. And the reality of it is that Israel serves a purpose for the United States in fighting against Iran. But outside of that, our strategic relationship with them is so lopsided, I cannot really see where they provide such a significant benefit to where we act like they are an indispensable ally in the region. I would say that at this point, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, just to name three, are more important allies, because they allow for us to base our forces inside of their countries and to conduct military operations out of them. Because when we bombed ISIS just last week, those aircraft did not take off from Israel. They took off out of Jordan and then went and bombed ISIS. So it's like, in our fight for ISIS, it's like Israel is literally useless. They won't allow us to base forces there. They won't allow us to fly through. They won't allow us to conduct military operations from their airspace. So outside of fighting the Iranians, they really don't serve a strategic purpose. Now, I would be perfectly fine as punch with the Israelis, like I am with any other country in the Middle East and elsewhere, if they allowed for us to just literally fly through their airspace at a minimum. I mean, everything else from there, I mean, that's their own national sovereignty thing. That's with or without their permission. But flying through their airspace feels like it ought to just be a minimum expected thing, considering how much support we give them in the tens of billions every year. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it the best I can, at least in my opinion. And a big thanks to you for the support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to JB Najalki. He puts in a 5. He said, quick one, enforcers. Will the U.S. strike Iran? And if so, prediction on when? Thanks for the coverage and LOSA. And I think that they will strike Iran. I think that's a certainty at this point. It's a question of when. The when question, I'll be honest with you, I really have no way of really predicting that with any accuracy. It's simply too unpredictable. But, I mean, the weekend would typically be a hot spot for that. So it could be this upcoming weekend, but we don't know that for certain. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that it's probably going to happen on a weekend, one of the upcoming weekends. I can't promise you it's going to be this next one, though, because the civilian leadership in this country might still not be wanting to conduct that yet. It might give it a lot more time. So it's going to be on an upcoming weekend, but I cannot say exactly when. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And also saw Leora Avagel say, Israel El Al have comprehensive mandatory anti-missile defense systems on all passenger planes. That is true. And we also have those on the U.S. Air Force as well. So if El Al can fly into Ben Gurion Airport at Tel Aviv, a U.S. C-17 or a C-5 Galaxy could easily fly through Israel. No question about that at all, in my opinion. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to none other than Ed once again. Ed puts in a 5 and said, LSA, Irish Ed here. Just to clear the record, I'm not from Philly. I'm from the suburbs of Harrisburg. My eldest daughter decided to go to Temple.
Oh, Harrisburg. That's not too far away, though. That's on the Susquehanna. And I got to thank you so much for support and clarifying that, Irish Ed. And I'm sorry that I've been getting that wrong this whole time. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 3 from Plazoth, and thank you very much, Plazoth, as well for that support. Also, while we're at it, a big shout out to Rob MacArthur, who threw in a 2, and we do appreciate you as well, Rob, for that support. And we also had a 2 from Dean London, who said, keep up the good work, fellas, and LSA.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you all for the kind words and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 2 from Bruce Lee, who said, wrecking havoc when we pop their new toys, quack.
And quack indeed. And a big thanks to you for the support and help this channel to keep running. And we're on to the next one.
We also have a 2 from Pleasure Burn, who said, live chat, please. And we shall grab a live chat in honor of your super chat. And thank you very much for the support. The live chat goes to Tekveri, who said, in case the U.S. has a prolonged conflict with Iran, how long would the president be able to operate before notifying Congress or stopping military operations? Technically, he should get a declaration of war. I feel very strongly about that. But if he follows the precedent that's been set, I think he's got like 60 days. I think that's the set amount of time. But Enforcer, what say you?
60 days, but it can be extended to 90 if he sends a written letter to Congress informing them that armed action is still necessary beyond that 60-day period, which is laid out in the War Powers Resolution of 1973. So it's 60 days, but it can be extended to 90. So 90, in theory, is the absolute maximum amount of time that the military operation can be conducted without an official declaration of war by Congress. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And a big thanks to you once again for the support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Bruce Lee, who puts in a 2. He said, check air crane in Winder, Georgia for neat helicopters.
An air crane. Where is that again?
In Winder, Georgia.
How do you spell that?
Like wind, E-R.
Winder, Georgia. Let's take a gander. Oh, Lordy. Is this where it is?
Air crane.
Is this where it is? Here it is.
That's air crane.
I ain't looking like no air crane to me. I'll be diffed. Where the hell is she? Where the hell is she, little boy? Damn. They make it hard to find. Let's see. Let me just pull it up over here. Air crane in Winder, Georgia. Where the hell is this? Where is this damn? Oh, well, it's right here. Well, it was at this airport. Here it is. Ooh, dang, they be operating that old stuff. I mean, dang, that's a Choctaw right there. That is old. Pretty cool, though. I like them. And how neat. That's actually really cool, honestly. They'd be lifting in those HVAC units. That's really unique. And I thank you for the support and sharing that with us. Also, by the way, I do have to mention, folks, that we did look at a video of that Fiat S76 last night off air. We were rolling, dying, laughing from that thing. That was actually pretty cool. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, a big shout out to some Canadian dude who put in a 7 once again. And he said, put Painter's name in regular chat. It won't allow me in the super chat.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope that people take a look at that Pana. And so a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep rolling. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And with that, folks, it's now time to jump into our live chat questions and grab our Morse code decoders of the night. And tonight, we had the whole roster of Morse code decoders. We had Paul, Kevin, Mason, Joni Dog, Minoran Pritchett, Arabelle Garbo, Heroia Fluffness, Kush, Kupateric Sai, and Brian Blairstown. They said the Morse code says, may God have mercy on Iran, for the Republic shall spare none. LLT, LSA.
And that's the sound of money. I got that down on the nail. That's the Morse code message tonight. You know, the Iranians have been propaganding so hard today. I was like, why don't we do a little bit of propaganda in the Morse code? And I'm glad to hear the Lee Springer Arsenal Corps got that correct. And a huge thanks to y'all once again for always deciphering that Morse code message so everyone here can know what it do be saying. And so with that, it's time for us to get on into our live chats. And sadly, folks, due to time constraints, we'll only be able to get 3. Aw, I know. It's very sad. But with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
In our and this one right here.
Damn.
And listen, and a man on the moon, and the mother who
Are
wants
you
to learn
good?
about the kids, and
are
you
you
know,
okay?
if they want to go to the ice cream shop and get a cone, and you know, are you okay? I mean, are you okay? I mean, are you good? But anyways, jumping into our third to last live chat question, this one goes to Space Fraggle, who said, "Do you think Iran will use chemical weapons if America attacks?"
It's always possible, but I feel like it's kind of unlikely because over the past 100 years, really nobody's used chemical warfare in an armed conflict. They do use them against civilian populations, but never in an armed conflict, except for the war in Ukraine if you count chloropicrine as a chemical weapon, which technically it is. So I would say that it's highly unlikely based off the historical precedent of the past 100 years. So I hope that does address it the best I can. And with that, we're on to the second to last question of the night.
You know, they said that I used to be a man on the moon back a long time ago. They said he was so far out there, they didn't understand what he was saying. It was almost understood. It was crazy.
But anyways, jumping into our next one here, this one goes to Marie Jacobs, who said, did a Russian fighter jet get shot down over the Black Sea over international waters?
We cannot confirm that because that's more of a rumor today. We weren't able to get a full confirmation of that. All we can confirm is that the Su-34 crashed in Kursk, with both pilots being lost in the crash. So with that, I hope that does address it the best we can. And with that, we're on to the final question of the night. And so, who is lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is going to be Andrea's Scout. And thank you very much, Andreas, for that good live chat right there. A final one around the night. We appreciate that very much. And Andreas said a question. Since Iran's nuke sites weren't knocked out, at least some of them weren't, do you think there would be limited U.S. boots on the ground in Iran?
With you, after we flipped the food pyramid, we really realized that those nuclear sites and that uranium needs to be at the top of the pyramid. But outside of that, I'd say that we have to definitely send some boots on the ground because hitting those bears with the cars just don't really get it going like it used to. So we're gonna have to send them.
But to be honest, I would say it might require it, but considering the geographical isolation of those facilities inside of Iran and how far they're in, it might be a little bit tough. Might be a little bit tough to do that. So we might not really see boots on the ground in a lot of situations in Iran, and it might be limited solely to airstrikes. So I hope that does address that the best I can. Also, I saw Baja Blast say, so we're just going to forget about Agent Orange like that? Damn. Well, I do have to give the caveat. I'm going to give this as a bonus to the last question. Agent Orange pretty much was a chemical weapon. I think everyone can kind of agree on that. But when it was used, nobody knew of the side effects of inhaling or getting around the stuff. Because back then, it was just called an herbicide. It was not a chemical weapon. It was just something to clear out vegetation. So we didn't really think it was going to have any significant effects because of its toxicity on people. And the people over there at the certain company that made that, they didn't really tell us that that might be an effect of that certain sort of an agent. So technically not a chemical weapon, if we're speaking technically. It had significant side effects, but that's just because it was a toxic herbicide, not technically a chemical weapon made for the purpose of either killing or maiming people through its toxicity or chemical agents. But anyways, with that, we've reached...
This isn't really funny. I was about to say the funny thing, but the sort of morbid thing is a lot of the most deadly chemical agents that have ever been used, like in atrocities and warfare, etc. Most of them were created as pesticides. Like, I can't mention one of them, but during World War II, there was a specific chemical that was being produced by a really bad government that was sort of, maybe possibly near Germany. And it started out with a pesticide, and it turned into one of the most horrific chemicals that have ever been used to commit atrocities ever. And it was actually first a pesticide. So it is really weird with that a lot of these things that become, like, for example, agents to keep fields free of bugs and things like that, turn into some of the most horrid things you can ever see in warfare.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting with that. And also another thing that I have to add, folks, someone also brought this up. This is a very big one. DDT, which was a very commonly used form of a pesticide here in the United States, actually was extremely toxic and ended up having to be banned in the 80s because of the amount of ecological damage that was being caused. Back when Agent Orange was being used in Vietnam, the understandings of the toxicity of certain chemical compounds wasn't really fully understood yet, like with herbicides, pesticides, and defoliants. Nobody really knew about that yet. That sort of knowledge started to come around in the very late 70s and really on into the 80s. That's really when it really started to be discovered that a lot of pesticides, herbicides, and defoliants can have significant amounts of damage on people and animals, and generally anything living that comes in contact with it. And even still to this day, we're finding that out about certain forms of different sorts of herbicides, pesticides, and such things like that. Like, even recently, just within the past few years, there's been many others that have been announced to be major carcinogens and toxic risks to wildlife, foliage, and also people for that matter as well. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it the best we can. It's kind of an interesting little bit of an aside there. But we have reached the end of tonight's stream, folks. I have to thank you all so much once again for enjoying the stream tonight. And I do have to say, we were highly honored. We had 18,000 people here at the peak tonight, and 156,000 people have watched this show. We thank you all so much once again for watching, and we hope to see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world, starting a brand new streaming week, technically, because our map resets starting tomorrow. And also, if there is enough news to cover for a short war video tomorrow, I, the Enforcer, will be the one making that short war video. And so with that, Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, Haram Slava, long live the Lee Spring Army, and long live the Republic.
And with that, folks, we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern on the next Nightly War News stream, and maybe on a short war video tomorrow midday if there is enough news to cover. And once again, a huge shout out to all 156,000 plus people that were here by the end of the stream, and we appreciate every single one of you for being a viewer here on the channel and choosing us as your news source. And we will see you all tomorrow. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Hiram Slava, get some rest, and good night.
Folks